What's doing, everybody? Today is Saturday, February 22nd, the Alec Lay Show live here at CPAC. Going to be bringing you guys my interviews with a lot of the speakers straight ahead. I'm Alec Lay. This is the Alec Lay Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the Alec Lay Show. I'm happy and honored as always to be here with you guys. I am live in Washington, D.C. for CPAC yet again. My son Logan came down with me for the trip here. We had a great experience. Had a chance to interview a lot of the speakers here at CPAC, which is a different vibe here, a lot of a celebratory vibe this year. And so people pumped up to be here, excited to see a lot of the speakers. I know we had Elon Musk that came out with the chainsaw with Javier Milei. I met Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, as he was on his way to go speak to Elon Musk and gift him that chainsaw, which now has become a meme and has gone completely viral. So that was pretty cool. Other guys, so let me just set this up for you. I finally had a chance to meet my friend Dean Cain in person. I've known him for about 7 years now. I've known him, and he's been monumental in my success as a podcaster, so it was an honor to get a chance to actually sit down and speak with Dean Cain, who was here at CPAC as one of the speakers. Also had a chance to meet Rob O'Neill, a guy that killed bin Laden, been a friend of mine for a long time as well. I didn't get a chance to sit down with him. He was kind of in and out, but I did have quite a few Navy SEALs on the show here. One of them you're going to hear from is Drago Dezarian, who's a legendary Navy SEAL. He was actually in if you're not familiar with his story, I had him on First Class Fatherhood. He was in a Polish prison when they were still occupied, still a socialist country. He was in a gulag, got out of there, made his way to the United States, became a Navy SEAL, served 20 years in the SEAL teams, and is one of the most proudest Americans you'll ever meet. Also, Navy SEAL Carl Higbee, who hosts on Newsmax, you'll hear from. Navy SEAL Congressman John McGuire. Also now had Congressman James Comer you'll hear from. Mike Davis. Mercedes Schlapp is going to kick it off here because this is her gig. You heard her last week on the Alec Lay Show with her husband Matt. So let me hit you guys with that one, and then we'll roll down the line of all the interviews that I got for you guys right here on the Alec Lay Show, and I'll catch you on the other side.
You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, Alec Lay's live at CPAC with Mercedes Schlapp.
Alec, you're here in person.
Yes.
We had so much fun on that interview the other day.
It was an honor to have you on. So let me ask you this. I know my time is limited. You've probably been asked this a million times today, but you've done a million of these. So what separates this CPAC from the rest? How is this one different from the other ones you've done?
I think that there is such an excitement in the air. Look, they're all very different. I'm going to be honest. And we went through 4 years of Joe Biden that was like, you felt like moments of darkness. You felt like, okay, our country was on the line. For the first time in a long time, there's such a sense of relief and a victory, but people really know that there's a lot of work to get done. And obviously, you know, when Elon Musk shows up and then you have President Javier Milei hand over a chainsaw, we're totally at a very different level. I mean, I was saying this is truly surreal. Truly surreal. It just shows that CPAC is part of this cultural revolution, this incredible American, I would say, just phenomenon that we're seeing of just being part of not only just changing government, but, you know, changing culture, being part of the business world, like how all these elements are coming together at CPAC has just been so fascinating.
Yeah, well said. And actually, Elon changed that picture of him to his bio now, his main picture in Twitter on X.
I love it. I haven't seen it. I'll look it up.
So that's awesome to get that reaction. Okay, last thing to get you out of here. The future of this country is family. That's what I truly believe. And if we can't get that in the right direction, we're totally lost. But I think what we did was we changed the direction in this country, especially for young people who fear getting married, who fear starting families. And that is the direction we want our young people in this country to start looking towards and say, hey, I could start a family and leave a real legacy.
You know, that's right. And I think my interview with J.D. Vance was truly something amazing when I asked him the question about what advice do you give young men. I think, you know, our society for so long has, and the left, they've really tried to almost demean the men in our country. And it's so depressing because we need strong men. We need strong men who are going to protect and defend the people they love and their family, and to be strong, to be ready to take this responsibility of getting married, being faithful, having children, because that is the future. The family, the intact family, basically centered in God, is the most critical part of our society. And it's what you're fighting for, it's what I'm fighting for, and it's what CPAC's fighting for.
Well said. I know you got 5, I got 4, so together we're helping to repopulate the planet. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time here in the Alec Lay Show.
Of course, and my children work at CPAC. We usually have 3 or 4 of them with us working. So for us, it's very important to share those values, for them to understand that we're not going to stop fighting. We're not going to stop fighting for them, and we're not going to stop fighting for the next generation to secure their freedoms and to know that they live in the greatest country in the world.
Well said. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mercedes.
you.
All right, Alec Lay's live here at CPAC with Mike Davis. Mike, what's been your message here to the people at CPAC today?
President Trump campaigned on the fact that he's going to bring bold reforms to Washington, D.C., particularly our legal system, and he's doing that. We're going to have Kash Patel confirmed at about 2 o'clock. Today, we have an all-star team at the Justice Department with Pam Bondi. Todd Blanche is going to be the Deputy Attorney General. His deputy right now, Amel Bove, is the acting Deputy Attorney General, and he's a savage. He's a political mass murderer over at the Justice Department, which is a wonderful thing. We're going to have John Sauer as the Solicitor General. Like I said, Kash Patel later today. Harmeet Dillon's going to run the Civil Rights Division. We're going to actually have civil rights enforcement in this country to protect all Americans instead of the Civil Rights Division being weaponized against parents and Christians. We have bold reforms coming. We have Gail Slater going to the Antitrust Division, along with my friend Andrew Ferguson running the Federal Trade Commission. So I would say to the trillion-dollar big tech monopolist, it's not going to be a fun 4 years for you. Thanks for paying for President Trump's inauguration. It was a fun party, but now you're going to be on the receiving end of antitrust law enforcement for the next 4 years.
Yeah, well said, Mike. And this is exactly what we voted for, too. This is exactly what we wanted to see happening. What's your take here on these activist judges that are trying to get in the way of blocking? Let's face it, they have no other route because we have the House, we have the Senate, we got the majority, the popular vote. Their play seems to be using these activist judges to try to shut down Trump's agenda. What's your take?
I would say to these activist judges, President Trump is exercising his core Article 2 executive power. For example, when he wants to have Elon Musk and Doge look at waste, fraud, and abuse, that is part of President Trump's take care power under the Constitution, to take care that our laws are faithfully executed, including our appropriations and other expenditures. And President Trump campaigned on the fact that he's going to put Elon Musk in charge of Doge and do this. He's a White House staffer, right? And so to these activist judges who say that President Trump and Elon Musk and even his Treasury Secretary can't look at Treasury payments because only career bureaucrats can look at these Treasury payments, but not the President and his Treasury Secretary, that's a big problem. When these activist judges who may have a conflict of interest that I may expose tell the President of the United States he can't bring home foreign service officers at USAID within 30 days because that's too disruptive to these spoiled brats at USAID. This activist judge, who was a Trump appointee the last time, Carl Nichols, there's only one thing that explains this to me, and that might be a conflict of interest that I'm going to expose again. But I would say to these activist judges, Trump is not stealing Congress's legislative power. Trump is not stealing the judiciary's judicial power. He's using core Article 2 power under the Constitution. And when you try to sabotage that because you have a political disagreement or a policy disagreement, or you think you're the resistance because you can't win elections and you have to go to these judges to do your bidding, this is not going to fly. And to these judges, when you lose your legitimacy, you're going to lose your power and you're going to lose your funding.
Well said, Mike. Is it going to come down to the Supreme Court having to get involved in this, do you think? Do you think it gets to that point where they have to step in?
Well, the Supreme Court's looking at a case right now on the emergency docket, and I'll say this to the Supreme Court, to the Chief Justice, John Roberts, the judiciary's legitimacy is on the line. And if the courts think they can hobble, if they can sabotage the President of the United States in exercising his core Article 2 powers, then guess what? There's going to be a backlash against Article 3.
All right, what do you guys got? What are you working on right now? Article 3 project. What do you guys got coming up here?
Well, we've been busy. We with all these cabinet picks by President Trump, like Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK and others. They said that the very smart people in Washington said they were dead on arrival. And then about 3 days after the Article 3 project had more than 50,000 Americans make more than 200,000 phone calls and emails and social posts to their home state senators, about 3 days later they went from dead on arrival to when can they start? Make it stop, right? We gave the Senate an attitude adjustment. We're doing that today. We're 5 for 5 today with Cash's confirmation. We're going to be 6 for 6, and then we're going to the sub-cabinet. And we're not going to stop until President Trump gets his executive branch team he wants. We don't tell senators who they can pick for their staffs, and they don't get to tell the president who he gets to pick so long as they're qualified.
Yeah, well said. Mike Davis, you're always crushing it on there. Great to see you here at CPAC. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Congressman James Comer. What's your message to the people here at CPAC today, Congressman?
Well, the message is I think that Trump has unified the Republicans in Congress finally. We had a few outliers, a few that wanted to be critical, a few that voted against some of his nominees. But I think as we stand here today, those Republicans that we all know, they went home, they heard from the constituents. The message was, you better get in line and work to pass President Trump's America First agenda. And I think that the support is there, the momentum's there, and hopefully we can get it done. I know the crowd wanted to hear that because these people have worked very hard to make sure we had Trump in the White House and a Republican Senate and a Republican House.
Yeah, and November 5th, it was overwhelmingly obvious that that's what the people want. Let me ask you this about this oversight committee here with underpaid foreign funding for these American universities here. Where's this funding coming from that we know of?
Well, we're going to try to find out. You know, we know that when I was doing the Biden investigation, we determined that the University of Pennsylvania, where the Biden Center for Diplomacy was, China was the biggest donor. That's where Joe Biden drew a salary for 4 years. That's where Anthony Blinken drew a salary. So you have the two of the top three people in our government, while they were out of power for 4 years, we're drawing a salary from a very secretive entity that had no transparency, where their funding was coming from anonymous sources in China. It wasn't coming from a business person in China, wasn't coming from a business in China, it was coming from anonymous sources in China. What we found through more digging is that China is a big anonymous donor to all of these research universities. We think that they're stealing our patents and intellectual property and things like that, but also these liberal colleges that are indoctrinating liberal ideology into our children. So there's a big problem with foreign funding of universities, and I think the American people at the very least need to know about it. And these universities need to step up to the table and be honest about where their funding's coming from.
Seems like the universities are like a big form of TikTok then, I guess, right? Chinese is getting to influence our minds through the universities just like they are through the social media apps. And you could see the change in our country because I think right now, in my opinion, the fatherless crisis, the breakdown of the nuclear family, that's the number one social issue we got, Congressman. If we can't get that straightened out, none of this other stuff that we do is really going to matter. We got no foundation to stand on. What's your take?
I agree completely. I mean, that's been a problem for a long time. It's really gotten worse. And I was back home in Kentucky, South Central Kentucky, the other day. The school superintendent was telling me in a county that not a poor county, not a rich county, kind of an average county in Kentucky, that 28% of the kids in the elementary schools are being raised by their grandparents now because the parents are on drugs, they've abandoned them, they're in prison. And I mean, that's not counting, single parent homes. That's no parent homes. And, it's just a huge problem. We got a problem in our public schools. The funding is going to the bureaucracies in education. That's why I strongly support President Trump's efforts to just completely not just dismantle, but eliminate the National Department of Education. We've got to get local decision making back to the local official on the front lines. We've got to encourage kids to get involved in church, go to church on Sundays. Get a belief, and hopefully we'll do that. I think this new administration setting the tone. Hopefully we'll have a better America. But we've forgotten our conservative values, and it's led to a decline in the family.
Yeah, and the faith is the other part of that. You take the father out of the home, the heavenly father out of the society. That 1-2 combo has crushed our country. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, we have this whole thing now with you have a committee or whatever it is, a task force on the secrecy that's coming out. We were hoping to kind of get hit with the Kennedy files and let's all see what it is. But now it's going to be done by, what is this task force, this committee? When are we actually, are they going to have to go through all the material first? When are we going to actually find out what the story is?
Well, so this spurred from the fact that President Trump said he was going to release a lot of our American secrets to the American people because the American people want to know. We have questions about UFOs. We have questions about who's on the Epstein list. We have questions about the JFK assassination. And he ordered the release of some formerly classified documents. And then we found out a few weeks later they didn't release all of them. So what this task force did was born out of the idea of several people on my oversight committee talking. And look, we're going to have to, when he doesn't have time to go to every agency and make sure that they do what he says, this task force is going to go in and say, we want all the files, not just the files you want to give us, Mr. Bureaucrat. We want all the files. This is what the president ordered. And then when he releases them, instead of letting CBS News or CNN tell their viewers what was in the files, we will, want to have hearings, public hearings, where we discuss what was in there and say, mate, this isn't the narrative that we were led to believe about the Martin Luther King assassination or the JFK assassination. And I think this task force is going to be a very interesting task force, and it's all about transparency. It's all about restoring confidence in our government, and it shows that Donald Trump's doing what he said he would do, and that be transparent.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, too, obviously the Epstein list is something everyone's been calling for. We want to see all the names that are on the list. But now that it just seems like there's one more step in the way for us to actually see it. And there's a lot of documents involved. There's like 5 million pages worth in this JFK thing. So it's not like something that someone's going to sit there and read through. There's a lot. Is the committee, is the task force supposed to be going through all that themselves to see what's in it?
Yeah. And look, with the Epstein list, it's not just who's on the Epstein list. Was the CIA aware of this? Did our government allow this to go on, where these girls were abused for years and years and years, to try to blackmail key American figures, key politicians, key business leaders, and things like that? This is something that I'm more interested in. What did our government know, and when did they know it? To me, that's a bigger concern than who's actually on the list. But I want to know who's on the list too.
Well, that's the other thing, too. Just with the USAID stuff, this isn't something that just happened in the last couple of years. This has been going on for decades probably here. And there's a lot of people that knew about it that never said anything. And those people got to be held accountable, too, no?
Exactly. The deep state cover-up in every agency. It's not just the FBI and the CIA. It's the IRS, it's the EPA, it's the Department of Energy, it's our Department of Justice. Every agency has deep state bureaucrats that have really had a two-tier system of justice. They've gone after conservatives. They've weaponized their agencies and budgets to go after conservatives, while at the same time protecting liberals, protecting the Democrat establishment. They need to be exposed. They need to, at the very least, lose their job. But hopefully they can be held accountable in a court of law, because I think that a lot of decisions these bureaucrats have made have really had negative impacts on a lot of people's lives.
Well said, Congressman. I know I got to get you out of it. Give me a hitter on this. All the President's Money, new book. What's it all about? Break it down.
It's all about the Biden investigation. It names the names of the people who gave the Bidens money. It goes through the list of all the shell companies the Bidens had. It lists all the family members that received money. There were 10 Biden family members. That book is the only place that names the spouses. And ironically, that book came out 5 days before Joe Biden left office. He pardoned the entire family. He pardoned family members nobody had ever heard of, and the only place their names were mentioned was in my book, because they were all part. It was the Biden crime family, and my book goes into who in the government obstructed, who in Congress obstructed, who in the media lied to the American people, and it's been a New York Times bestseller for 3 weeks. So I encourage everyone to read my book, All the President's Money. I'm real proud of it. It's published by HarperCollins, which is owned by Murdoch, which owns Fox News. So it's a good conservative book that answers a lot of questions I think the American people have about the Biden investigation.
Great stuff. I'm going to put the link to the book down in the description below. Congressman, we may never get another chance like we got right now, so we're praying for you guys in the House to hopefully get Trump's agenda through. Thanks for your time today. All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Carl Higbee. Carl, it's great to see you here this year at CPAC. I know, what's your message to the people that you've been seeing at CPAC?
For 4 years we had, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do, and this is the first year for 4 years that we have said we did it. We did. It's a victory lap.
It's a different feel here, too, because I know we were kind of scared the last few years saying, like, man, if we don't get this, we're going to lose the country forever. Now we got it, but we only have a short window here, too, Carl. It's not like we say 4 years, but 2 years is the midterms. We have the House now with slim majority. We got to act now or we're going to lose it.
Well, I've been telling everybody who will listen that Speaker Johnson, I wish him success, but he's not doing much. And I don't care if he has the votes or not. You put them on the floor and you vote for them. And when Republicans don't vote for our own bills that are, maybe not perfect but good enough, then we need to hold them account too. Primaries.
There has to be some kind of a pressure, especially when it came to these Senate approvals here. We were seeing some of these guys. We had 3 of them that voted against Pete Hegseth. We had people voting against Kash Patel. So it's like when you see that, it's like, whose side are you on? Like, your true colors are here. You're done with this party. They should be out.
Yeah, well, Murkowski and Collins voting against FBI, FBI Director now, Kash Patel, who's a phenomenal account for that. I mean, phenomenal. This is a guy who uncovered the Russian collusion scandal. And Adam Schiff, who's out there, smashing him, saying, oh, he's the worst thing ever. It's like, no, Kash Patel uncovered Adam Schiff's Russian collusion narrative. Okay, that's why he's scared, because he knows that Kash is going to get to the bottom. And Pam Bondi said earlier today that she has the Epstein client list on her desk waiting.
Yeah, and we're waiting. We've been waiting for that for years now. This guy, no one's paid a price. And we want to see somebody held accountable, put in handcuffs, and actually say, okay, we got the people that have been doing this to the kids. But it seems like until that list is out there, then it's always going to be like, well, we don't know who's on it.
Well, that's correct. And, there's a very interesting thing going on right now, which it's only the Democrats seem to oppose him outside of Murkowski and Collins. Why is that?
They don't want the Epstein list. They don't want us cutting all this fat from all the people, like taxpayers like us, that are getting screwed by the government. Now they're against it. Oh, no, we don't want to see where the money is going. Why not? The only reason you don't want to see where the money is going is because you're getting a piece of it.
Well, but the interesting thing is the history of Doge. I don't know if you know the history of it, but Doge was actually founded by Barack Obama as an exemplary wing of government where they could bring in, not through the traditional hiring process, they could bring in smart guys from the tech industry that were newer to this stuff, that understood new technologies, and could use that to innovate government efficiency. That was their job. And he just changed the name of the office, not the mission, but changed the name of the office, brought in a couple, and respectfully, nerds who understand what they're doing, and they are doing a fantastic job. So it was okay for Barack Obama. It was okay for Bill Clinton to fire every single U.S. prosecutor when he took place. It was okay for them to fire 370,000 employees under his administration, under Clinton, but not under Trump. Why not?
Same thing with the deportations, right? They called Obama the deporter-in-chief. He deported 3 million people out of the country. Now, all of a sudden, Trump starts to do deportations. He's Hitler.
Yeah, well, and, Barack Obama built the cages, and then they said Trump put kids in cages. And, Tom Homan highlighted this. Child family separation. Look, if you or I get arrested today, you're taken away from your kid just the same as any illegal immigrant. Don't break the law.
All right, last thing, Carl, because I know I got to get you out of here. I've had a few of the war fighters on here like yourself. I was with the SEALs covering the event when they marched on Washington for Pete Hegseth. I never seen anything like that. I mean, the way these guys came out to support him. So how much does it mean to the guys that do the fighting on the ground like you, that you have a Secretary of Defense like Pete Hegseth?
It's nice. And, I'm pretty good friends with Pete, and it is really a momentous thing to have a guy who has that kind of beat on the troops. And it's really nice to see a guy PTing out there in the snow with his people in Germany, where there's a real connection from the lower ranks up to the top. And that's what it is. You flatten the organization, you get a much better result. And obviously you got to have a chain of command, but being able to have an E5 tell the Secretary of Defense, be like, hey, man, here's a big problem with a lot of things, you're going to get a lot more efficiency.
Well said. All right, Carl Higbee, you're a hero. I know you're a first-class father all the way. Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of time on the Alec Lace Show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Superman himself, Dean Cain.
That's Alec Lace right there.
Well, for a lot of the people that don't know, my success in this industry has been because of you. You came on, gave a little lone guy a shot, and from there I've been able to speak to so many different people about so many important topics. So what's been your topic here to the people? What are you saying to the people at CPAC? What's your message?
I had a couple of different panels today, and one of them was about Hollywood and getting canceled and wokeness. And I was on there with Bill Abbott, who's the head of Great American Media, used to be the head of Hallmark. And I used to work for Hallmark all the time, and then when he got, quote, fired, suddenly I didn't work for Hallmark anymore. So, but we talked about that, and then I was as a deputy sheriff, which I am as well. I spoke this morning a little bit about law enforcement and about just sort of the general cultural shift that's happened since President Trump has come into office. Honest to goodness, Alec, I feel like every single day it's my birthday, and I wake up to see what gifts I've been given on the X machine there. It's amazing the pace that things are going on, and I couldn't be happier. And by the way, I was honored to speak with you back in the day as a I don't know, a fledgling, because your concept, first class fatherhood. There's nothing in my life that is more important than being a father.
Yeah, and that's what we want to see come back to the big screen, too. So I wanted to get your take. They put the ambassadors to Hollywood, Mel Gibson, John Voight, and Sylvester Stallone. I forget Stallone. I said, why not Dean Cain? But I guess you moved out of California, so you bailed on Hollywood. But what is your take on the ambassadors to Hollywood? You think it's going to make a difference?
I don't know if that was. I don't know. It could. Maybe it was a symbolic move by President Trump, or maybe he's going to give him something to do. I mean, if he was allocating funds, that gives them a lot more power. But if it's sort of an honorary title, I think it just shows that, we've got a hand, this side has a hand in the cookie jar, so to speak, or on the stage, and I think that's important. And I think, as Andrew Breitbart said back in the day, and Andrew was a friend of mine, he's the first guy who ever told me I had to run for office, and he was convinced. He's like, it is my. I think I have his book where he's like, it is my goal to make you run for office. One of his books that he signed. Politics are downstream from culture, so when you're doing things, you're making product and projects and movies that glorify God or glorify fatherhood or glorify Judeo-Christian values, you're helping to change the culture. And I'm watching my 24-year-old and his generation come back around, and it's really nice to see them questioning things and being interested in the news and find out what's going on, not just being lemmings. I feel like maybe that generation just ahead of them might have been.
And it would be great to see the father take the prominent role in Hollywood films again. This is what the people are begging for it. Right? I mean, people are begging for the father character, the strong man. He knocks out the bad guy, saves the girl. You know what I mean? Like that's the movies we want to see. We're craving for.
That's the movies I like to watch. I expect to see that. I mean, I don't mind having a feminine hero now and again, things like that. But men are built a certain way. We are the hunter-gatherers, and we are the protector of the family, and that's just what it's always been. It's the way it was always in my household. It's the way I grew up. It's the way it's in my household now, and most households are that way. And I like to see a strong male character. That was one of the things that bothered me about one of the Superman movies, was that Superman wasn't raising his own kid. And Brandon Routh did a great job with it, but I was like, man, as a father, you can't. I turned down everything, and I've discussed this with you before, but I turned everything down to remain a father. Band of Brothers would have been a great thing I really wanted to do. Couldn't do it. A couple different series, couldn't do them because I wouldn't be there, wouldn't be present as a father, and they would have taken my custody away because I was in a custody battle. So I wouldn't trade anything for what I've done. I would have liked to have done Band of Brothers. That was darn good.
Yeah, I would have loved to see you in it. But we also, too, you see, we have Supermans that say they take out the truth, justice, and the American way. We have a Captain America that says, hey, he's really not all about America. And you're like, what are we doing here? These are iconic figures that are great for the country, and they're taking them away.
Listen, on my X bio, it says truth, justice, and the American way. Why Warner Brothers let that lapse, I'll never know. Your kid's wearing a purple suit.
Yeah.
And a Raiders hat.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
So he's not afraid of anything. I truth, justice, the American way. I stand for it. It's on my Twitter bio, my X bio, because I believe in it. People are like, well, what is the American way? The American way is belief in the individual and protecting individual rights, the ability to compete fairly without government and other people just putting a million regulations on you and tilting the scale, like, EV mandates and things of that nature, the ability to be successful. Yay, be successful and then create wealth that you can pass on to your family. That's what everybody wants. That's why everybody's coming here. That is the American way.
There is part of that, too, that has to happen in the education system. And that's why he's saying we're going to dismantle the Department of Education. He's got Linda McMahon on there now, who's pretty badass.
And her job is to get rid of her job.
Yeah, exactly. But it has been. I mean, we've seen it. You raised your son in this country. You see what's going on with this education system. And the Democrats sit there and argue from the standpoint as if this has been successful. And they're putting out all these brain scientists. But when you're out there looking at the younger generations coming out, it's like, what are these kids learning? We got the chance to see that during COVID, and that's why a lot of parents stood up.
Well, it's pretty simple. Look at when the Department of Education came into being. Look how much money they spent, and look at the drop in our test scores. So I don't think, it was never supposed to be a federal agency. It was always supposed to be reserved for the states. I believe in federalism. I believe in states' rights. I think it's a good thing. I'd like them to bring back, the Presidential Fitness Awards. I remember those. I'd like to see that stuff get back in, and I'd like to see them encourage healthy habits and good habits and And the government can do that. You can use that carrot in a sense to do so, but I don't think the Department of Education, I mean, even under Trump's first administration, it should have been gone. And I think it'll be a huge savings, and it'll, I like that California is a little different than New York or whoever, and I think it should be that way. Let the states run it.
Because anything else that's set up like that, if it continued to fail for 30 years, they'd be out of business. But we just keep dumping money into it, expect a different result.
Or if you're $36 trillion in debt, you can just keep going. No problem. I would like to have that credit card because my household doesn't run that way.
All right. The other thing here, Pete Hegseth now is in charge in the military. It's another one of these things. You were speaking there with Tim Kennedy. These guys are pumped up about having a guy at the helm that cares about the people on the street doing the fighting, the guys on the battleground. So what do you think is going to what do you think of Pete Hegseth becoming the Secretary of Defense?
I think Secretary Hegseth is a superstar. I think he bleeds. If you were to cut him open, he would bleed red, white, and blue. He is the biggest patriot I know, and I know him very, very well. Love the guy to death. Can't be. Before, my son was talking about possibly going to the military, and I was like, no, not under this administration. If Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense, I would say go ahead. I would feel, because I know the way he feels about our warfighters. I know how he feels about every single soldier and their families as well. So I am super pumped up that he's in there. I think he's already doing a great job. It's only been 32 days. My gosh, it's incredible. And, we need to be a lethal fighting force. So hope, I love, back to Reagan times, strength, peace through strength. And I think Pete believes in that 100%. And if it's time to show strength, he knows how to do that. We'll be overwhelming force, and it'll get done, and our men and women will return, and we won't leave anybody behind. And people should fear the United States military. But we need to be not doing this sort of things that we've been doing with USAID and all these other crazy things. Let's be on the up and up, and I think it's about as good as it gets. I'm so happy with Secretary Hegseth, and I'd love to be able to say that, Mr. Secretary. Well done, Mr. Secretary. No, it's just awesome.
It has been. And the other thing, last thing, because I don't want to keep you too long here, Dean, but we have this all-star team now. You talk about health. We have Maha with RFK Jr. We got Tulsi Gabbard's on board now. And we got Elon Musk. I mean, we have all these people.
Elon yesterday here with the chainsaw. Iconic.
Yeah. So we have all these people now. So CPAC now takes on a different tone. We have guys like that were lifelong Democrats, prominent Democrats too, and now they're in the MAGA party here. They're on Trump's administration. So what do you think that little potpourri is going to do for the future?
Well, it changed everything. I mean, you have a whole President Trump himself, a former Democrat. I mean, that's just what it is. The far left has just moved everything left or further left, and people who were moderate Democrats are now far right Republicans, and they're not. Their positions haven't changed. And I go back to, I don't know who said it. They said I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. Well, that makes sense. And I think it left Tulsi. I think it left Elon. I think it left President Trump. And they said, this doesn't make sense. This is a party of common sense. The things that they're doing. I mean, I'm still marveling every day at the fact that Democrats are fighting Doge. Who doesn't want to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse? Who doesn't want to do that? It's a really tough position to defend, and I don't think the American people are behind it at all. The chainsaw was hysterical, and we need to take a chainsaw to that budget. Anybody who's fighting against it probably has their hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, and it's the taxpayers like us that are the ones that are getting screwed. The Democrats no, we don't want you to find out why. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean,
what is this? Why is everything classified? Why that was not a very transparent administration. This administration is incredibly transparent. I love what they're doing. Every day is my birthday. I wake up, check the news, and see what's going on.
Well, Dean Cain, you're a first-class father all the way. Glad I finally got a chance to meet you in person. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time on the Alec Lay Show.
Anytime, brother.
You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, Alec Lay's live here at CPAC with Eric at Donald's. What's your message to the people here at CPAC today?
Well, I'm a big proponent of education, so that's what I'm here to talk about, Trump 2.0 and what it means for reforming the education system in our country.
Well, the Democrats, when we talk about dismantling the Department of Education, they talk from a standpoint of as if the people in this country are brilliant, right? As if the Department of Education has been such a wild success that how dare you try to shut it down? But this thing's been a failure since the jump.
Yeah, I was in Linda McMahon's hearing, and that's exactly what they were doing. If you take away this money, then the children are not going to get the benefit of it. Well, how are they benefiting from it now? We're spending $1 trillion in the history of the Department of Education. Performance has gone down. A third of our students are reading and doing math on grade level. That's 1 in 3. It's totally unacceptable. It's not working, and we need a complete overhaul of the entire government-run education system.
Right, and it seems like too, like we've become like last place in like all these different categories, right? But it's even more than that. Just from being on the street, interacting with people, especially the younger generation, it's very difficult to even pull a conversation out of some of these people. Now, I know technology and social media and stuff plays a part of that, but I think a lot of it has to do with what we've seen in our Department of Education, and we saw that during COVID when parents got a chance to see what was going on.
This is America. This is the greatest country on earth. How is it that we have the worst education system of similar-sized and developed countries? It's totally unacceptable. And we should not make any excuses for what has happened in this country. Parents need to take control. They want to take control. To your point, after COVID, they saw what their children were being taught or not taught in most cases, and they want to be able to use those dollars and decide how their children are taught, where they're taught, and what they're taught.
Yeah, very, very well said. And also, too, I think the other big part of this is, number one, the education system obviously sucks in the country. But number two, and the most important reason, is that our families have broken down. The nuclear family in this country has been decimated, and it's been by design. We got a fatherless crisis in the country, and unless we can get the nuclear family problem solved, dads back into the home, maybe bring some faith back into focus, I don't know if we have much chance to succeed.
Yeah, that's absolutely part of it as well. And I was just on stage with Jack Brewer, who is very passionate about the fatherless in our country and bringing fathers back into the home, elevating the traditional family, because that is at the core of the issue, and that's a cultural issue. It's not something that the government can solve. We have to solve it. You and I, our neighbors, our churches, our cities, and our communities. But in the meantime, we also need to teach children what the success sequence is. You graduate from high school. You get married before you have children. You stay together as you raise those children. Like, that is how you stay out of poverty. And many schools have now adopted, especially charter schools and schools of choice, teaching the success sequence to students so that they know how they can achieve the American dream.
Well, I think also, too, Erica, what that creates is that competition will have these schools trying to do better, because if it's now you have the opportunity to take your money elsewhere, now you're going to try to compete for those dollars, and I think that's going to elevate the education level all around.
Well, look what the free market does in our economy, in every other area of our lives. How many different ways can you eat breakfast or get coffee in the mornings, right? You can do it on your phone. You can do it in person. But we have not seen that innovation and access come about in education. Why? Because the free market is not allowed to work. There is a monopoly. When parents have agency and they're able to vote with their feet, we're going to see education transform, because people, entrepreneurs like myself, are going to come up with innovative ways to solve problems for families, for students, and to meet their needs and ensure that they excel academically. So I'm excited about the free market in states like Florida, Arizona, that have passed universal school choice. More and more states are coming on board. They're going to show what the free market competition can actually do.
What's wild about this is we never had access to more information than we do right now. Like, every book that's ever been written, you have in your pocket. Like, you could pull it up on your phone, yet we seem like we've slipped in all these different areas. And it seems like it should be so simple to be able to put these pieces in place. But unless we have, everything the government seems to touch goes down south. I mean, we could see that all across the spectrum. So I think once we get their fingerprints off of it, I think it should move pretty quickly. How long do you think we would take to see some kind of changes once Linda McMahon and we can get this whole thing turned around?
Well, look at what's happened just since COVID. I've been working on school choice for 15 years. But since COVID, we went from 0 states with universal school choice to now 13 states. And Texas, one of the largest states in the country, getting ready to pass school choice in the next few weeks, and spend $1 billion to put that in parents' hands. We have seen a huge shift, and it's going to continue to happen very quickly, especially as parents in other states see, well, why don't I move to Florida where I can get $9,000 and use it on private school? Why am I stuck in this bad school when people are working from home? Professions are more mobile now. So it is going to transform very quickly, and the innovation is going to start to really excel, especially in states with school choice.
Yeah, well said. Well, you guys had big news yesterday, right? Or the other day, Donald Trump comes out, throws his full endorsement behind your husband to run for governor of Florida. Your husband responded saying, hey, announcement coming soon. So can you give us any of the inside skinny here? Is he going to make the announcement soon here?
I will tell you that caught us completely off guard yesterday. So my husband did retweet the president and say that he he would be making an announcement soon. He was actually home with our son, who was on a championship basketball game last night, is now in the Final Four. And so I haven't even gotten to see and talk to him and celebrate the support of the president. But it's such an honor. We love President Trump. We believe in his mission. We believe in the golden age of America. Anything that we can do to bring that about, to support President Trump and also to make Florida and continue to make Florida great, we're here for it.
I will say that a couple of years ago, I did an interview with Governor Ron DeSantis, and one of the things he said was making his decision to run for governor and leaving Congress was that he got to spend more time with his family, because with Congress, he's constantly going to Washington, he's constantly on the move, but as governor, he spends more time now with his family than ever. How would that sound to you? And does that make a little piece of the puzzle here a little easier?
Well, Byron does come home every weekend. We're with him. We travel with him. He is a great father. Like I said, he was home with our son for his basketball game, so he doesn't miss a beat. He's a great father, a great husband, and we just look forward to being able to serve our state, our community, our country in any way that we can.
Well said. All right, you have you spoke here about the golden age of American education. You have the America First Policy Institute. A word on that, where people can find it.
So AFPI, as you know, was created 3 years ago to fill the gap between Trump's two terms, and they've really done a lot to prepare Trump for the second administration. America First Policy Institute Center for Education Opportunity, that's where I chair, and we're going to be helping both the administration at the federal level continue to enact the president's policies and also supporting school choice expansion in every state across America.
Awesome. Well said. Erica Donalds, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of time in the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC. Hogan Gidley, what's your message to the people here at CPAC?
Keep fighting. You can't ever let yourself rest on the fact that we won. You'll notice the left is consistently focused on this year-round, and that's been one of our biggest problems through the course of my time in politics is we win, and we just go dormant until the next election season. We lose, we go dormant until the next election season. For the left, their politics is religion. They do it sun up to sundown every single day, all weekend long, from election day to election day to election day. And if we stay focused and we remember what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish, I think we're going to be okay, and we're going to buck some trends like losing the House in the midterms and things like that are typical. In addition, one of the things Donald Trump has done with his cabinet picks, which I think is brilliant, he's got people that not only are well experienced and can do the job and have an affinity for saving taxpayer dollars, they're also good on TV. And that matters because so often as Republicans, conservatives, we win and then we pass a bill and we think, oh, the people understand how good it is for them. We never continue to tell them this is why it's good, this is why we're doing this, and this is how it gets better, et cetera, et cetera. Democrats do one thing that ends up opening the border, that ends up making us pay more for gas and groceries, that ends up making wars break out all over the world, and then they message it in a way that makes you think it's not really happening because they just want to tell you how good it's going to be one day. Republicans have to continue to sell it, and Donald Trump's got a good cabinet to do it.
Yeah, well said. 2 points on what you said there. One, the people that do look good on screen, you have like the Pete Hegseths and the Sean Duffys. Now, they try to play it like these are just media guys, but Pete Hegseth is a combat veteran, decorated, right. Yeah. And Sean Duffy was a former congressman. So these aren't just media people. They're more than that.
Exactly, but that's the point. Not only do they have the experience needed, I mean, Kristi Noem was the first governor to send National Guard down to the border. So she understands that. I mean, she's a farmer and a rancher. She gets, people trekking through private land down at the border, all that kind of stuff. She understands that. But she's also good on TV. You said the same thing with Pete. Obviously, Kash Patel is great. Sean is great. Linda McMahon is incredible, too. Run a business. So she clearly is a billionaire businesswoman who made WWE, for heaven's sake, a global entity. She can look at under the hood and find out if something's working or not. And when kids can't read, for heaven's sake, you need somebody who understands how to get things accomplished, and she can do that, too.
The other thing is these people are like organically successful. They're not like the way the Democrats are. They're pretend celebrity people on the Democrat. And to your other point that you said earlier, the Democrats never take their foot off the gas. And when they had the power and the control, they acted like we didn't even exist. They tuned us out and didn't listen. Meanwhile, we're still reacting. We're still paying attention and giving them a voice when we should just ignore them right now and straight ahead with the football.
And we can do that now because Donald Trump won in a historic landslide. He got the popular vote. He won the swing states. That matters, too, to the messaging, and it matters to the posture of the administration to say, we don't care what you say or what you're doing. We got a mandate. We're going to accomplish this for the American people. That's the fight that we have to engage in. Donald Trump is doing an outstanding job of that. And to the Democrats, I think you just point out something really, really interesting. It's just the blue blood, fail upward, swamp, fiefdoms and these little Washington pockets of power that they've tried to develop for the last several decades, they don't have any business running the things they're running or doing the things they're doing. And so it makes them upset when you bring in someone from the outside of the D.C. Beltway who understands how, signing the front of a paycheck, what it means. They don't like that because they want to be the ones that tell you we know better when they don't know better at all. They've never run a popsicle stand, much less an agency. And when you bring someone in like Pete, who has a history of running organizations, sure, but as you said, a combat war hero, he knows what the folks out on the front lines really need and what they want. Why wouldn't you want someone like that? And I hear this argument. I was on TV the other day, and someone says, but everyone voted for Lloyd Austin. This is going to be a contentious vote. And I said, Lloyd Austin, is this the same guy who's experienced? I said, he had all the credentials. I said, right. The guy who let a Chinese spy balloon traverse the entire width of our country, pausing over nuclear sites, mind you, before they shot it down in South Carolina. This is the same Lloyd Austin that went AWOL for days with the nuclear codes and didn't tell anybody he was doing surgery, life-altering surgery. Is this the same guy who let drones fly over our bases? So spare me on this. These guys know what's best. They clearly don't. People want to change, and they got one.
And Hogan, I've never seen anything like this. I was with the Navy SEALs and the other combat veterans when Pete was doing his speech there when they were trying to. They made a march. They never come out like that. The Navy SEAL community has never done that before for Secretary of Defense. And it shows that they were sick and tired of these people that were in charge in the military with the wokeness that's got in there, the woke fair. They said, enough is enough. Let's get back to lethality. He's preaching right to these people that are the people that have been putting it on the front lines for us.
Yeah, and you've said things like lethality, readiness. Those are things that the military, while we still have the most lethal fighting force on the planet and while we're still the best military ever, when you start to go away from the core principles of the entity that you're talking about, then you have to question what the future of that entity is. And with Pete Hegseth there, he's focusing everything back on what the military is designed to do. And when you have that, it makes us not just more of a formidable, superpower in the globe, but it also makes morale go up here. It makes recruitment go up here. You begin to see an influx of people who want to be part of a cool military when they understand that the military, its design, its purpose is now being fulfilled. It wasn't before. That's why the numbers were down. Now they're spiking because someone like Pete's at the helm.
Yeah, well said. Last thing I want to hit you with here, we say 4 more years, but really 2 years till the midterms, and if we have a slim majority in the House. So right now it has to be with a little bit of necessary emphasis on getting the agenda accomplished. What do you want to see right now from Trump in the immediate future? We're only a month into this. What do you want to see happen next?
Oh, look, I think his focus has been flawless at this point. He's really focused on making sure he accomplishes what the America First agenda is, the Make America Great Again mantra is all about. And look, he has the luxury of hindsight. He has the luxury of doing this once before. And look, it's trite, but it's true, and that is hindsight's 20/20. Leaving that office and getting another crack at it, knowing what you know, because anyone who comes to the White House, as you know, takes a year or two to get your footing right. Now he's ready, and you're seeing that with the rapid pace of things he's accomplishing, but also the media didn't know what to do or how to react because all these things are proving to be successful. The American people like them. They're popular, and there are also so many of them, so they can't focus on one thing. I saw the other day in the office 4 major national newspapers, and they were sitting on the table, and each one had a different top story. So at the top of the fold, when you fold the paper, different top story. And all 4 of the stories were legitimate top-of-the-fold headline stories, but they were all different because Trump had done at least 4 major things in that day that you could call the top story of the day. It shows you how much he really wants to get things done and accomplished, and it's really impressive.
Yeah. Shock and awe, baby. We're doing it. So, Hogan Gidley, thanks for giving me a few time on the Alec Lace Show.
Absolutely.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with my man Tim Kennedy. Tim, what's the message you have for the people here at CPAC?
Yeah, that freedom's back on the table, and the Constitution is something that is going to be fought for in every single branch, agency, institution, and individual that is part of the government, which is a pretty rad thing.
Yeah, what's your take now on how we're revamping the military? We got Pete Hegseth. I was there with the SEALs doing the march to get Pete in there to be the Secretary of Defense. What's your take on what Pete has done already being the Secretary of Defense?
Man, he's a rapid transformation. That's something that's clear. We're bringing lethality back. We want strong. We want standards. As a service member, I've never been more proud to see change, and it's something that's we're seeing on the recruiting side. People are flooding to recruiting offices because they want to be part of a strong military. Retention, people are like, I want to stay in the military because we are going to be, if we got to go fight, we are going to be going to win a war, which is then a natural deterrent. So everybody is just invigorated and proud to be back in the win column.
Now, how about as far as the veterans? I know you just met, I think, with Doug Collins, right? He's the new guy in charge of the VA, because the VA is something that just seems to be a nightmare for so many veterans to have to go through. So what was your sense on Doug Collins and the job, the tall task of revamping this VA?
Yeah, before I came and sat down here, we came from Secretary Collins' office, and we got a lot of time with him. I know he's a busy man, but I really appreciate that time because he was able to convey not just what he cares about and his values and how he's going to approach that. There's a Bible on his desk with his dog tags. You know, he's a 20-plus year service member. He's been married to the same woman for 30-plus years. Like, this is a man that is there to serve and continuing to serve. He was a chaplain. Like, he just reeks in the most incredible way of this fragrance of I'm going to fight to the end. And the things that he cares about is taking all of the resources and pointing them towards the service members and veterans and giving them immediate access. And then the bureaucracy and the problems of the broken system that have been in place to start tearing that down, to let organizations like Doge get in there. And I think people keep viewing Doge as like this battle axe of cuts that's happening. What we're doing is we're taking this entrepreneur efficiency approach and then pointing that lens, that perspective at our branches of government, at our institutions, at our agencies, and it's a collaborative approach. So he is saying, okay, how can we be more efficient? How can we be more effective? If we are cutting unnecessary systems, how do we redirect those funds into things that matter? And that's a really cool new take, where normally in most governments and most even military, just on like ammo allocation, you'll have a unit that will go like, hey, we have to go shoot all of these bullets to make sure that we get them in the next ammo cycle. And they have like a spendex, and it's madness. It's madness that was the approach. Like, let's spend everything so we don't lose it, but maybe even get more. And I get that on the training side. Every single unit should have unlimited access to ammo as long as they're effectively training. But on like the government fat side, if you can recognize that there is something, a system or process that makes it ineffective or inefficient, and we can fix that, or have somebody external with a new perspective like Doge come in and fix that, and then redirect some of those resources to known problems like veterans that are dying by suicide and people that are struggling with mental health issues and having a crisis, or access to care like hearing aids, as my ears are just ringing from nonstop noise in here. So that's what's happening, and Secretary Collins is doing it, and he is doing it at a pace that I am so inspired by.
That is the thing, Tim, because you hear so many times from like people that are combat veterans that'll say, well, the military prepared me to go to war, but they didn't prepare me to come home. And I think that message really needs to change if we want those, like you say, I know the recruiting numbers are up, but when you see people coming out on the other end and you're saying, well, they didn't prepare me for this, that's kind of like saying to the people coming in, well, why do I want to head where that guy's going? So that's definitely a message that got to change.
Yeah, it is changing. The view, the perspective by Department of Defense and the VA, and there's going to be a clear collaboration between the VA and DoD, because if the DoD messes it up and they end up at the VA broken, there's a system problem there, right? If we're looking at somebody coming into service from 18 to 38 in those 20 years, that's the only time that we have them. That's just not true, because after 38, from 38 to 78, or whenever, heaven forbid, they pass, they're still kind of on us to take care of in some instances. So why don't we look at them from the day that they become interested in serving? So like, what is that, 8? And then up to, for me, it was 4, as I was drawing pictures of jumping out of airplanes in combat uniforms wearing a black belt. Like, I knew what I wanted to do. So why don't we start addressing them then, but then recognizing that there'll be all of these moments, these gates and these benchmarks along the way where this is where they're going to get hurt. This is where they're going to have kids. This is when they're going to retire. This is when they're going to, and look left of bang and start being preventative about some problems that we know are going to happen later in life. And instead of us having to deal with somebody that's diabetic and, obese, that is struggling with a whole myriad of health problems when we could have just like paid for their gym membership, or like give them a little instruction on what nutrition and sleep looks like for a healthy person post-service. And on the service side, start changing some culture aspects where like, yeah, maybe 9 monsters in a cigarette's not the way to go about it, tanker, and hey, infantrymen, I get it. It's good to be hard, and you have to be tough. You have to be strong, but you have to be smart too. And then those two organizations, the VA and DOD, working collaboratively, which then prevents a whole bunch of problems that we have later on.
How far removed, Tim, is like the DOD from like when you're the guy fighting on the street, or you're in the like how like do you guys in the units? How much does it matter who the Secretary of Defense is, like Pete Hegseth, and who's in DOD, or does that stuff, the guys that are on the ground doing the fighting, is that really important to them?
Yeah, it matters. It matters. It's your chain of command. Every room that you walk into, you have your chain of command, right? You have your sergeant major, and you have your company commander, and then you have your battalion commander, and all the way up to like who is the chief of whatever, if you're in the Army, like General George right now, and the Sergeant Major of the Army, Mike Weimer. And then you have the Secretary of Defense, and then you have the President of the United States. And right there, we got a picture of Donald J. Trump. We have a picture of Secretary of Defense Hegseth, and then you have your command from General George on down. So it absolutely matters, because every single person in that unit looks at their face every single day that they walk into the HQ. And then we see Pete going into Secretary Hegseth, moving into Germany, and going and training with Green Berets on the ground, doing PT with them pre-sunrise with this mammoth of this like Hulk-looking dude that created a meme, right? But like that's what's supposed to happen. This is clear leadership from the very top, where he's like, I'm here for you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna get stuff done with this 4-star, but I'm gonna get down with that E6, with that E3, and I'm going to learn about things that matter to them and the problems that they have, so that they can then become more lethal of a fighting force. We're bringing back lethality. We're here to win wars. We're here to prevent wars. We're here to scare our adversaries into ever messing with us again.
Yeah, well said, Tim. Last thing before I get you out of here, what's your message to parents right now that have kids because of the change? Trump's in office. Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense. Kids now, high school. Hey, I want to go into the military. What's your message to those parents?
Man, I really struggled for the past few years about even my own kids, what they would do. One of my daughters was interested in serving, and man, I was on the fence. And most service members come from veteran families. And I think, especially post-global war on terror for the past 20 years, I'm not dissimilar to so many others that were like, I don't know what to say to them. And not to be like overly vulnerable, but it was a really hard gut check about like, where is our military now? But I can tell you confidently right now that I have never had more confidence in leadership and the military's direction. And to parents, have faith that these leaders want to give every single tool to our service members in uniform to make them effective and a lethal fighting force that is both preventative. Like, we don't want to be in wars, but heaven forbid a war happens. I don't think any one of our adversaries now is looking at the military and being like, oh, this is a different thing. This is going to be a different problem. Like what they had 6 months ago is so dissimilar to what it looks like now. Like, these are, being a badass is back, and I'm here for it.
Thank God. Tim Kennedy, always an honor. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of time today on the Alec Lace Show. All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with my man Terry Schilling. Terry, great to see you again. What's the message you got here for CPAC today?
It's all about the family. We got to get back to normalcy. It's exactly what you've been promoting and focusing on. Look, we've got our work cut out for us still. President Trump's been delivering left and right. He's signing all these executive orders. He's going to be pushing legislation to protect our kids from all the weird trans stuff and the weird forces that want to turn our kids into just terrible consumers who are morons that can't think for themselves, right? And we've got to start growing. We've got to get people young, getting married again, having kids. And so I'm talking to the main stage in just a bit, and I got a message for the young men out there. You got to start a family. You got to start pursuing women. Stop sleeping around. Stop watching porn. Stop smoking weed. Stop playing video games. Get married. What are you doing? You got so much time. You got so little time on this earth, right? And you're going to waste it doing any of those things when you should be starting a family. We're either serious as a country or we're not, right? And we're not serious when our young men are just getting high and playing video games, and they're not starting a family, getting married, having kids, starting businesses. Like, we can do this. It's not that hard. We just got to stop being losers.
Well, we're in America here. It's the best place to do it, too. And it's like, I'll be married this weekend. It'll be 20 years for me. We got 4 kids. And it's hard to get that message across, so like you said, to these young guys who are coming up that are being bombarded with the media, with the entertainment, with the video games, that, no, that's not the way to go. That's a disaster. They try to pump up all the divorce stuff that's going on. And I will say this, Terry, that there is an issue with the family court system in this country, and that has deterred a lot. That's like a lot of the major talking points for people saying, "Oh, don't get married. You're gonna lose everything." And so the family court has been a problem in this country.
No, without question. I think there are a few things that America's really, really screwed up, and it's family law in this country. It is absolutely egregious. I have read horrific stories about fathers losing custody of their children because the mother wanted to give the kid a gender transition, and the father didn't, so he's the threat to the kid, right? Our laws in this country around the family are totally backwards. The incentives, oddly, are all about breaking up the family and liberating people from the family. We all know that you don't get liberated from the family. You get enslaved by getting away from the family, right? Like, the family is it's the best vehicle for liberty in any nation. If you have weak families, you have tyranny. Or if you don't have it right away, you're going to get it very quickly. But we've got to get back to strong families, because liberty can't exist without strong families. The family court system, it's a total nightmare. Dads are losing custody. And, like, the thing is, we sacrifice so much, and we're willing to make tough calls, and we're willing to make tough decisions. But our legal system can't punish us for being dads. Like, that's what it's doing.
I do know. I know Elon Musk is going to be here. They announced that he's going to be speaking here. I know that USAID is one of these things. They found everything. Doge is uncovering. I would be curious, because I know that when it comes to child support, I think the state gets paid on a dollar-per-dollar basis. I'm not sure. I've talked to a few guys that have been through the system and have gotten railroaded by it. But I'd be curious to see, is there some kind of finagling going on with the money involved with the family court, child support? Because it seems like there's a lot of incentive for these people to break the families apart.
Well, I think another major problem with the family court system is it's just the wild, wild west. Like, you have these family judges who don't actually have a code or a law to go off of. It's all just precedent and whatever the judge deems necessary at the time for the well-being of the children. And they started taking kids away from fathers early in the 90s and 2000s, and they're still doing it. But now it's not about, just divorce and liberating women. Now it's about this whole transgender stuff. So I think we need a full-fledged review of the family court system and how they're coming to these decisions and all that, and go from there.
Let me give you a tough one for you here, Terry, because Trump just expanded the access to IVF. Now, that's been a thing that's, very controversial. The left told you he was going to get rid of it and ban it. You wouldn't have no chance to get it. IVF, I've been on the fence about it. I know people that have been blessed because they couldn't get pregnant, but were able to because they went through the IVF. So what was your take on Trump expanding the access to IVF?
Look, I know what time it is. I think our nation's under so much attack, and so I'm very hesitant to have any words that are critical of Donald Trump just because guy took a bullet for our country. But I think America's system right now on reproduction, if you want to call it, or family formation, is kind of crazy. We're funding abortions through our federal government. We're funding birth control through our federal government. We're funding all these anti-baby, anti-human things. And now we're going to fund IVF. So I'd rather stop the bleeding and then see what the situation looks like. But look, he made a promise on the campaign trail. He delivered on it. I'm Catholic. It's against our teaching, but I'm not, I think you need some consumer protections when it comes to IVF, right? It can't just be the wild, wild. There was a story just in CNN the other day about how a woman went through IVF treatments. They implanted the wrong baby in her. She carried that baby to term. They didn't find out until 5 months after she gave birth. She had to return the baby to the actual genetic parents. This needs regulation, right? We need protection. So whatever, I get this is a big country. It's not Catholic, but we got to at least make sure that we're not giving the wrong babies to the wrong moms. But that's not a President Trump thing, right? He's delivering so much. I'm not going to say a bad word about him, because he took a bullet for our country, and he's delivering on all his promises. So, things that might give me heartburn, I'm not going to let it get in the way of supporting a great man, a great president.
Yeah, well said, Terry. Yeah, I would love to see if they tried to offer that girl a $30,000 buyout like Delta did, like a plane flipped. Here's $30,000. Keep it quiet.
Yeah. There was well, she's suing right now. That was the base of the story. And what is the value of that, right? How do you calculate the financial damages of giving a baby are giving a woman the wrong baby, making her carry it, and then making her give that baby back. Like to me, that would be billions of dollars of emotional trauma alone, and not even counting the physical. So I don't know. This is a crazy world we live in, though, right?
That's a disaster. All right, listen. What do you? The future of this country. The future is family, right? We try to send all this other stuff. We chase this material stuff. At the end of the day, you will have nothing. Leave nothing behind, but what you leave to your kids, your family. That's your true legacy. You guys at the American Principles Project. I love what you do. You support big family. What do you guys got going on right now? How are you working with President Trump to put families first?
Well, we got to defend his agenda, right? I mean, this guy's out there just firing away at the left every single day. It's like a full-on blitzkrieg, not just for the American family, but for America in general. So he's coming under heavy fire. We're going to defend him every chance we get from all these evil people that, just a few months ago didn't see anything wrong with the country, right? They thought Joe Biden was doing a great job leading our nation. They didn't have any problem with it. So we're going to defend him every single day, but we've got to build a bigger majority in the House and the Senate for him for the next 2 years after this first two. So we're going to be investing $25 million into the the midterm elections this next go around. We got to get more people in Congress that care about the family and prioritize them. We can't let the momentum go away, right? Like, if you look at the results of the 2024 election, the number one issue and the biggest difference between 2022, where we kind of faltered, was the trans issue and Democrats' extremism on cultural issues. So we've got to keep investing in attacking the Democrats for their radical ideas on what they want to do to American culture, namely our children. Got to keep that momentum going and make them pay a price for it. So we're going to keep investing in elections, but we also got to get these, Trump signed these executive orders into law. We've got to pass those through Congress. We've got to make them permanent, because if there's a Democrat ever elected again, which God forbid, they would reverse everything and actually go fully on the other way. So we've got to fully back him up, support him, what he's doing, but get these laws passed and codify it.
And you can see just by the election, parents came out overwhelmingly to support President Trump. The dads overwhelmingly voted for President Donald Trump. And I think a lot of it is because of this trans issue stuff was pressed so much. I think a lot of the regular people that were going to be quiet said, wait a minute, this can't happen. But the Democrats didn't get that message, because they seem to act like the majority of the people want this trans stuff on kids. And if they go with that message, I think they'll get blasted. Last take.
No, that's exactly right. We know what the polling is on this. And actually, if you look at the numbers and what's happened since the election, the numbers are moving away from the Democrats. It's getting worse for them, not better, right? And usually, it's interesting, right? Because usually once a president gets elected and he starts delivering on those promises that he ran on, usually he takes a hit in the polls. Usually the support for that issue and doing stuff takes a hit. But what we're actually seeing, so there was an interesting segment on CNN. They showed the numbers before the election on transgender sports for women. 62% of the American people were with us before the election. After the election, the day that he signed his executive order, 79% of America is behind President Trump and getting men out of girls' sports, right? It's getting worse for them. I don't care. Democrats can do whatever they want on this. We're going to keep marching ahead to protect our daughters, protect our kids from this entirely evil trans industry, so they can do what they want. We're going to do what we want, and we're going to win. We got to protect our kids. If we don't protect our kids, we won't have a future. They are our future.
Love the message, Terry. I know you're going to crush it out on stage. You're a first-class father all the way. Thanks for giving me a few minutes time. Great seeing you.
Hey, thanks so much, Alec.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Scott Lebedo. Scott, what brings you here to CPAC? You doing any performance? You doing any painting, any speaking?
No, actually just came back on my way back. I don't fly. I drove, stopped at Mar-a-Lago. Tuesday night, I had the big fundraiser. General Flynn and his organization, America's Future. Great people. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff down there, but this was probably one of the best ones I've been to. You had Roseanne Barr, Russell Brand, Mike Tyson, Teddy Nugent, who is a big, these are, and it's funny because they're all fans of mine. They all listen to my insanity. So it's really cool. I did one of my speed painting performances, raise some money for the organization. And driving back to New York, because I got to turn myself in Monday for another one of my political activisms that went a little sour. So I got to, stopping by. I'm trying to enjoy my freedom,
Well, let me ask you about this, because I know that you had you put a great video out when you were protesting against this stupid congestion pricing that was going on in New York City. People were, the fire department was complaining about it. Everybody, your regular blue-collar workers are the ones that had to get taxed on this. So how does it feel now knowing that Trump said, hey, you know what, your tax on the working class is over?
It's a shame, because think of all the money that they wasted putting these cameras in, doing all the studies, doing the whole thing. I'm sure it's tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that they lost. And now that it's going to be scratched, it's just another waste of money that could have went to our veterans in the streets. It's just endless. And that's pretty much where the subject is. And you'll find out Monday once I see the judge and stuff. It's relevant to the other money grabber, unconstitutional speed cameras, which they were originally supposed to be in front of schools during school hours. And like any other town, and I travel, if you know, I've traveled through every state painting flags, and I go through these little towns, and you go through a town during school hours and you see this big yellow flashing sign, lights, and it says strictly enforced 10 miles an hour during school. And you abide, and that's just common sense, safety. And then after that, you go through it. And then after school is over, they shut them down. That's what the way it was supposed to be. And now it's on every effing corner in every part of the city where there's no schools. Even when school's out in the summer, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're getting a ticket. Bullshit. So I'm going to be responsible for also taking those cameras out of there where there aren't schools. With the schools, keep them there.
It's almost become like the Dukes of Hazzard with the phony speed traps. They pop up all over New York City. People are tired of it because it's what's happening all over the country, but in New York City especially. And I want to ask you too, Scott, because I know I don't have much time when you do. But now that we have Trump in there and we're getting rid of the illegal immigrants, hopefully we get them all out here. But New York has been atrocious. I mean, they're posted up everywhere. Have you seen a decline? Is people self-deporting? Have you seen more deportations happening? Are we getting rid of the illegal aliens in New York?
I see a less arrogance, and it is really nice to see that a lot of these shelters are being closed. And Staten Island, I led the way with Curtis Lewa, Johnny Tobacco, a few others, to get people out in the streets to fight for these illegal alien shelters that were housing men, young, unvetted men, across the street from a little girls' school. That's where we're looking at. Same thing with Tom Holman. Everybody thinks they're going to come in and round up, these guys and girls working in restaurants for 20 years, here that maybe need to come out a little bit. That we're looking to get rid of the violent criminals, okay? The drug dealers, the violent criminals, the gang members. That's what needs to be done. We're not animal, as they say we're human beings, and we're just tired of our streets being run with vicious criminals, and that's including citizens here. And we're going to see the demise and the fall of all of that.
And last take here, that before you go, Governor Hochul, this is a person who has been, I don't know how to explain her. She's destroyed New York City, but so many of them have. There's still is stink on New York from her, from all these people. What's his name? The guy eating the hamburger there, de Blasio, right? Warren Wilhelm Jr., the whole bit. Do you think New York has a chance at all to go red for the next mayor of the city or the next governor of New York?
Absolutely. It's been proven. We already had. We had Giuliani as mayor. We had, was it Patterson? Was Patterson Pataki. We have Pataki. So we can do that. And I think we are going to do it sooner than later because of the insanity that people have seen. And finally, even these idiots, I call them effing idiots, that keep voting when they are getting constantly beaten the shit out of them by these Democratic haters of the city and the state. And they're like, okay. And now they're coming out of the closet saying, you know what, I think I had enough. So, yes, I'm very confident. And I'm pushing for Curtis Lewa for mayor.
I'm with you on that. So, all right, Scott Lebedo, I know you're busy. Thank you for all that you do. I'll be rooting for you on Monday. Hopefully I'll see you after that. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time. You got it, man. Mike, what's been your message to the people at CPAC here?
We got a skills gap. It's wide. It's big. We got 7.2 million men who are not participating in the workforce, not looking for work. We got $1.7 trillion in student loans on the books. We got 7.6 million open positions that don't require a four-year degree. And yet, we keep lending money we don't have to kids who are never going to be able to pay it back to train them for jobs that don't exist anymore. If we want to close the skills gap, we got to make a more persuasive case for millions of good jobs that nobody knows about and nobody understands. These are six-figure jobs or opportunities that lead straight to a six-figure career. They're everywhere. And if we don't reinvigorate the trades, I'm afraid the president's best efforts to bring manufacturing back to these shores is going to run into a real roadblock. We need an enthused workforce, skilled for the jobs that are out there.
Yeah, well said. As I was telling you, I'm a railroad mechanic. I've been doing that for 25 years. I've been doing side work as an auto mechanic my entire life. I have 4 kids. We own a house. We've been able to live comfortably because of that one skill set of being able to do something mechanically.
And you're not the problem. you should be on a billboard. People should look at your life as an example of what can happen when you master a skill that's in demand and work your ass off. That's still for sale. It's still important. And we have to get in front of that message, and we have to reinvigorate the trades in a way that makes this generation of kids look at careers like the ones you had and go, yeah, damn Skippy, I'd do that.
And these aren't the jobs that are going to be replaced by AI. The plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics, they're not going to be replaced by AI. Yet all these things that people are trading their entire future for, they're all going to be replaced by AI.
You said it, not me, but something tells me your days working on the railroad could not have been done by a robot.
100%. Mike Rowe, I took up enough of your time. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak.
Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Daniel Turner. Daniel, great to see you in person here.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you.
Well, I know you're speaking in a little while, so what's your message here to the people at CPAC?
Energy. We do energy issues, energy jobs, energy dominance. We're excited about Trump's National Energy Dominance Council. Energy is everything, right? Energy, your microphone. The first thing you did this morning, last thing you'll do tonight is energy. Plugging in your phone, setting an alarm, brewing coffee. And if we don't have abundant, reliable, affordable American energy, we're weaker, we're poorer. President Trump understands that. This administration does. And we need to start becoming energy dominant again.
I know when they keep talking about prices coming down for the goods, I know right now everyone, for some reason, the mainstream media is focused on egg prices now, right? For the last 4 years, they could care less what the price was. But in order for those to all come down, I know obviously they murdered a bunch of chickens and stuff, but for all the other items for the inflation to come down, energy has to come down first or none of that's going to happen, right?
Absolutely. But it's going to take a little while. And I tell people, if you look at the first Trump term, right, he's sworn in January of 2017. It took a year, right? It took a year. But when it kicked in, it was irreversible until the Chinese brought us COVID, right? It was irreversible. Gas was $2.05 a gallon. Inflation was 1.4%. We had more money in our pocket. And so it will happen. It's a certainty, but it's going to take a little while. But you're absolutely right. Until energy is cheap, all the goods and services we buy and that are transported and grown and manufactured, all of that will stay expensive too.
I do think, just from myself, being a voter, a citizen, I do think we have this kind of like, we want it done now. Like as soon as he got sworn in, we were like, well, why isn't everything done? Like we want everyone deported. We want the border completely shut down. We wanted this all to happen overnight. Same thing with the prices on all this inflation and stuff too. But like you said, this is going to take some time, but changing the direction right now is the important thing. Not changing the destination, but changing the direction where we're headed is key.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember during the campaign, Kamala Harris started talking about oil production, and she pivoted, right? Suddenly she was a big fan, and she talked about record high oil production. And she was not lying. We are producing record high oil, but the oil that we're bringing to market today was drilled 7 years ago. That's how long it takes when you lease land and move your equipment and start drilling and frack and set up all the infrastructure. It takes years until that is brought to market. And so what the Biden administration did is they created so many problems now that they are going to trickle out into the future. So the egg prices are just catching up to us from decisions that were made 4 years ago. So yeah, it is going to turn around, but it's like that analogy they say about the aircraft carrier, right? You don't turn that thing in a second. It takes hours for it to make a right-hand turn. It's going to take a couple months for us to get in the right direction.
Yeah, we were like the Titanic headed for the iceberg, and so we turned the ship. It's going to take a minute there, too, but we still might sideswipe it as a result, right? But so what is it now? Now, obviously, it feels like we're a year into this term, but we're only a month in, so we got 4 more years to go. What is the next steps here you want to see from President Donald Trump to make us energy dominant, to get all these things that he talked about during the campaign? What's the next step going forward?
Even just regular order will help industry to survive, right? If you operate in this space and you don't know if there are going to be lease sales next month, right now by law, the federal government leases land for whether it's oil or gas or farming or ranching or timber, right? Deb Haaland, the former Secretary of the Interior, would say, don't know, maybe not, right? So if you're going to lease land and hundreds of millions of dollars in not just the lease, but the equipment, the personnel, how do you make financial decisions not knowing if April 1 there are going to be lease sales? And so that uncertainty breeds chaos. So even President Trump just having regular orders, so the whole millions of people in this industry can point to dates on the calendar and say, this is going to happen on this day. Well, we can start planning accordingly, right? So just regular order is a huge step. Sounds crazy, right? Like follow the law, but following the law, whether it's the border, whether it's anything, following the law will create order, and order is how we can actually begin to thrive.
What's crazy is that how important all of these things are. Like the nucleus of a lot of this stuff is the energy industry, but it's not the sexy topic of conversation, right? So when you ask people during the election, like, oh, they talk about the immigration, the inflation, right? They get to a bunch of things, the men and women's sports and all that stuff. It's a while before they hit to the importance of the energy, but it's so important to everything else that's going on, and that's why more people got to get involved in what is actually happening here.
It is, and this is like the conversation you like to have with your buddies with a fire and a cigar and a bourbon at 2 a.m. This is the left, how they politicize everything. 10 years ago, we would not be having these heated political conversations about energy, right? Energy should be kind of boring, right? It should just be non-confrontational, non-controversial. But the men and women's sports shouldn't be. But the left, everything they can get their hands on, they destroy from within, and they politicize, they weaponize, they ruin. If we can just get back to regular order on this issue, on crime, right? Locking up criminals shouldn't be a huge deal, and now it is. Now you say if you rape someone in America and you're going to go to jail, it's like, wow, crazy idea, right? So the left just destroys so much of what is normal and calm and routine, and they've done this to energy as well, and we're feeling the result.
We've all seen it. Now, last thing, too, before I get you out of here, is we see what Doge has done and uncovered all this wasteful government spending. And I don't think there's anybody alive that doesn't think that the citizen is a sucker when it comes to the government. They're taking advantage of us. They're taking our tax money and they're blowing it. How has that affected the energy industry? Are we going to uncover some of this stuff where the money's been blown? Do you think Doge is going to start getting involved in that aspect of it?
I do. I think the biggest thing that we're uncovering is that you talk to your friends, you talk to your family, you talk to regular Americans, and they're like, yeah, climate change, I get it, right? But I got a job to do. But you see these groups, you see these activists, whether they're lying down in traffic, they're throwing soup on famous artworks, and you kind of scratch your head and you're like, where do these folks come from? Well, Doge is uncovering it's all fake. It's all paid for by tax dollars. It's all funneling money to different groups. The $20 billion Lee Zeldin has uncovered that goes to these fake green groups that pay these people to do this, that create this hoopla, that suddenly people like you and I who are normal are like, all these people care about climate change. All these people march, whether it's climate. You know where I'm at the point now, Alec, and I know I sound like I don't believe the left is even real. I don't believe BLM. I don't believe Antifa. I don't believe climate. I don't believe any of these groups actually exist. When you see how many hundreds of billions of dollars the federal government has been funneling to them, we've been paying for our own demise.
That's a great point, because I even say this all the time. Like, I never meet these people. Like, as I interview a lot of parents, a lot of dads, I've never met a dad that thinks, yeah, I want men in the locker room with my daughter. I've never met one of these people in real life. I only seen them on TV and on the internet and stuff. But also, when it comes to the climate change, like, you have these actors that get up there. They just won an Oscar, the prime of their life. This is the biggest thing they've been shooting for. And then they get up there and they give like a 5-minute speech about climate change. Like, what the hell happened to these guys? But the climate change thing has been a hustle. And I think most of us have seen that. And that's caused, I would imagine, amounts of wasteful spending. I know they see that Greta Thunberg, they put her up there as a professional on all these issues and stuff, but I think the people have tuned out to the whole go green and the climate change thing.
They have, because they can't afford to eat anymore. And the question is, how much more pain should we have felt until the good part of going green kicks in? During the presidential debate, Vice President Harris bragged, we've invested $1 trillion in the green economy. Well, look at the price of eggs, look at the price of gas, look at your heating bill. Electric bills are up 30%. How much more $1 trillion investments and years would someone like Vice President Harris need until we say, wow, this going green stuff really works? They didn't even lower emissions, right? If that's the big metric by how they determine success, that wasn't even measured. So what did we benefit? What we did is a lot of people made a lot of money. We didn't, you didn't, I didn't. But when you spend $1 trillion, a lot of people made money, and those are the ones who are outside right now screaming and yelling because their pot's running dry.
Yeah, going green for them, but losing green for us, right? We got no green in the pocket. So Daniel Turner, always an honor to see you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time on the Alec Lace Show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with my man Ivan Raiklin. Ivan, last time I seen you, we were doing the march for Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. I seen you at the press conference. Pete's in now, and now Kash Patel just gets in as
minutes ago. Yeah. Minutes ago, we got Kash Patel. What's that phrase that they said during Star Wars? The deep state target list actioning is now fully operational. Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, and the Secretary of Retribution. Let's go, baby.
Have you been confirmed by the Senate?
No, I'm America's Secretary of Retribution. It's because when you talk to people and you ask them, hey, where do you fall? Are you a beta cuck that wants accountability? Or do you want actual retribution for the lawless, criminal, treasonous behavior of the last, at a minimum, 4 years? More people now understand the last 8 years going back to the illegal spying operation on Trump. And now we're starting to dig into, the JFK files, the Martin Luther King Jr. files, and then the Bobby Kennedy files, right? The senior, right? And so, or RFK, right?
Let me ask you on that real quick. I just had Congressman Comer on here, and I was talking to him about that.
He's here.
He's here, and
Jim Comer, Oversight Chairman.
He was talking about they have a task force now that's going to look into these things. I was thinking we were just going to get these files, but now there's going to be a task force in Congress, and they're going to do like a hearing.
Jim, if you're listening in, as I always do, I love you, brother, but you can't slow walk America anymore. The pace with which America demands accountability, justice, retribution has now shrinked from decades, years to Elon Musk's pace and Donald Trump's pace, which means we're talking minutes, maximally hours. So as soon as you identify something, auto release. You know how like people do insta block? How about you insta release as soon as you find something, so that we're just inundated, and then let's crowdsource all this criminal evidence so that America in the collective can say, oh, wait, look at this. Adam Bullshift. Let's send this criminal referral to this state AG and this district attorney.
You know what, the two, Ivan, right now, like we have like Elon Musk. He's going to be here too today speaking.
Yeah, in a few minutes.
He put out that Grok 3 with the AI. So we have these AI things now.
I just talked to one of the senior engineers on that team.
Well, couldn't we like
hours ago?
Couldn't we like feed in all this information from like the JFK thing to the AI and have it just say, here's the answer, here's what happened, break it down in 5 seconds?
Are you reading my texts and emails? What's going on here?
Wouldn't that be nice?
It will be nice. Not wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, because
wouldn't it be nice?
We also think like that's the thing too. When they have these big bills that they put up for Congress, it's like, why can't we just feed them through an AI and give us the breakdown? What is the actual stuff in this bill?
We couldn't do it before because we had incompetent buffoons. I like to call it like we had basically low IQ supremacists in our government, right? Now we're moving towards removing them so that we have high IQ critical thinking supremacists all throughout our government.
Well, it'd be nice if we could finally get some kind. We say retribution. We want to see some answers. We want to see people in handcuffs, people in the orange jumpsuits. We want to see some accountability.
That's too diplomatic. That's the low end of the threshold of what I'm fighting for. And I think at this point, we're just with your show and other shows that are independents. I think at this point we've mobilized not millions, tens of millions of Americans, and now Elon amplifying it. I would say that not at 50 or 51% of America. I'd say we're going into 75, 80, 90% of America now know that the 2020 election was illegal, right? Illegitimate. Now know that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was funded by good old Fauci that created the lab incident. Now we got to figure out and prove that it was intentional. And then after that, then we prove that that was the precursor to the usher in the illegal election across 39 states that led to the Fedsurrection of January 6th and the cover-up after escalatory cover. Like basically everything that I've been putting out over the last few years by name, date, place, transgression, category, relationships, going back to the illegal spying on President Trump through Carter Page. Somebody on Twitter earlier today posted, I can't recall who it was. Hey, hey, Scott Lebedo's over here in the house. What's going on? This guy's in Mar-a-Lago. He's at CPAC. He's everywhere. Going back to that tweet. So somebody asked the question, who was it? No. So
dun, dun, dun.
Remember, I got caught off guard. So the question was, what should be the first declassification by the now FBI director, Kash Patel?
The current director.
The current director. You know how I said FBI instead of FBI? Well, as of a few minutes ago, it is now the FBI again. Having said that, my answer to what should be his first declassification, how about he release the entire Woods file, unredacted, for the FISA authorizing and duping the FISA court into spying on Carter Page in 2016. And also General Flynn's original FD Form 302 that was signed by Joe Pientka III, as Joe and Pete Strzok produced that after interviewing General Flynn. Those two declassifications will then showcase the initial spark of the continuous and escalatory cover-ups that occurred to cover up for that, the illegal spying on Trump through Carter Page, and then everything since then. That literally will start the sequence of events to prove every single conspiracy that's taken place in this country politically over the last now 9 years.
Yeah, and Trump did say that right from the jump. He said they spied on my campaign. He called it very early on. He knew all of this, and it's taken this long for all that stuff to come out. Also, did you see this morning, too, they had a press conference about Obama's birth certificate, that it was total bullshit, the one that they presented?
I wasn't sure if that was that from today? I thought it was like from years ago, and I guess it was. No,
well, they were sharing. I saw it today.
I saw it in my feed, and I had to take a look, but apparently it must have been something new. I'll have to contact Joe Arpaio to see if that's from today.
They're not saying that they're proving that he wasn't born in the country. What they're proving is that birth certificate that was produced is bullshit.
Yeah, kind of like millions of ballots, right?
Well, anyway, so now we got where we want to be. We got Kash Patel. He's the one we've all been waiting for. Now we got Kash Patel. What do you want to see right out of the gate here? If you could advise Kash Patel on his first month as director, what are you telling him to do?
I would highly recommend to Kash Patel to identify the number one draft picks, to work with Tulsi Gabbard's number one, number two, number three draft picks, and Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s number 1, 2, 3 draft picks to formulate a task force to showcase the entire COVID con from start to finish, which then ushered in showcasing and declassifying everything related to the 2020 electoral heist within government holdings, both unclassified and classified content, and also related to January 6th Fedsurrection. Then work with Elon Musk to then amplify all of this to hundreds of millions worldwide, to then change the psyche of the American jury pool and judges so that lawyers can now become lawyers again and litigate this in court for the ultimate result of capital punishment because of treason to all those that have been begging to be convicted of treason based on their actions over the last few years.
And that's exactly what's happened here, too. There's people here that need to be held accountable for it. And we're just praying that now that we have the piece. We're only a month into this here, Ivan, too. We're 1 month in. We got 4 years to go. And it seems like the momentum's riding high.
It is. And I would urge Kash Patel to consider bringing in, he already listens to him. But I would say there's only a few people that have bigger balls than big balls. That was being discussed a couple of days ago, right? Or a week ago on X by Twitter.
Harry Balls is the one.
Elon changed his name to Harry Balls. There's a few folks that actually are namesakes with the name. Their first name is Hugh, last name Balls, and there's a little relationship there, but their middle name is Mungus. Okay, so Humongous Balls are the following individuals. That's their nicknames: Mike Davis, John Eastman. And there may be others out there that will be the catalyst to move the Overton window even more to reject what we just experienced over the last 8 years. And not only reject it, but crush these idiots. Castrate the deep state and then crush the commies. Let me go start doing that right now.
Let's get it. All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Drago, Dezarian. Is this the first time you're attending CPAC, and what's your take on what's going on here?
This is the first time, yes. This is amazing. Think about it. 40 years ago, when I was sitting in a communist prison, in the wildest dream didn't cross my mind that I can sit in the same room with most powerful man in the world, one of the most powerful men in the world, J.D. Vance. I was listening to his speech today. It's incredible. I mean, it's fantastic. What I love about this is the gathering of American patriots, people who put America first, and I love it. I mean, that's great.
Well, I'll tell you, a few people here probably realize as much as you do what could have happened to this country had this socialist, Marxist takeover happened and Trump didn't get back into the White House here to kind of help save this country. So how do you feel right now about the future of America, knowing that we have Donald Trump? Did we save it, or do we still got a while to go yet?
He will be able to save our country because we are sliding in the totally wrong direction. What happened the last 4 years for me was like deja vu from communist country. This ended. Also, I would like to point here to our vice president's speech in Munich, in Germany. What many people or some people don't realize is that this speech was not geared up for the goons of globalism. There was more for the people, for citizens of European Union. Don't be afraid. Stand up. It is. I've seen similar moment in 1978 when John Paul II came to Poland. He was speaking to Polish people and say, "Don't be afraid. You raise up, fight for your rights." And that was end of the communism in Poland. 1980s, Polish trade union movement Solidarity became alive. It turned into the social movement, and in the later 1990s, communists fell in all European countries, East European countries.
Well, how does it feel then, too? Like you talk about John Paul II and him talking about ending all that. Now you have Pope Francis in there, who seems to have more of a globalist mindset and is lashing out at President Donald Trump for kicking people out of the country and for closing the border.
How can you get upset about kicking criminals out? Illegal crossing of our border is a crime. Besides, please remember, no country has unlimited resources. Having 30 million people suddenly showing up in your country, on your borders, sucking up the resources is not good. We lost control of that border in the last 4 years, and now I'm so happy to see it being fixed by President Trump, by Vice President J.D. Vance. I'm very proud to be part of this movement too here, the Republican movement, absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously you've served a long time as a U.S. Navy SEAL, and we have now the military going in a different direction. I mean, the destination isn't going to change overnight, but the direction of the military has changed now. Pete Hegseth is in as Secretary of Defense. What is your take on the job that Pete Hegseth is doing just about a couple of weeks in?
Pete, thanks God for you, because it's time to change this thing. Please remember that depravity, perversion, and debauchery thrown on our military didn't make us stronger. That diversity doesn't make us stronger. Unity would make us stronger. And I'm glad to see it being reversed. I mean, can you imagine arming a mentally ill person with the guns, and then he's... I mean, I want our country to be safe. I want to fight for our country, but I want to fight along fellow Americans who are capable of handling the guns, who are responsible. It's hard to say it about the mentally ill people that were put into our military, and that was just ridiculous, and that was very upsetting, not only for me but my teammates as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we understand that these are people that have like mental illnesses and they have all these things. It's not to dunk on them, but it's to say, why are we putting these people in positions of power, and why are we paying attention to them as if they should have some influence over the society when it can only bring it down?
You know, America is great, compassionate country. We don't beat up on people with schizophrenia. We don't beat up with people with gender identity crisis. Those are we have compassion for these people. But now, military discriminates and always was discriminating against certain people. Obese people cannot go because into our military. People mentally ill also not. So they try to make the exception for the gender dysphoria. The mentally ill people, or people without legs, people, handicapped people, they cannot serve in our military. I understand veterans who was injured and lost limb. America provide great care for these veterans, and our military also. They let them finish their service, they let them serve. But bringing people who are not qualified to join our military and who lower our readiness is very dangerous. I mean, when I went overseas and I travel overseas, all I was met with ridicule and laughter how our military looked under Joe Biden. That was a disgrace.
I can't imagine what it must be like for you to see that going on. Now, let me ask you this, Drago. Right now we have the approval to fly CIA drones over these Mexican cartels. The Mexican cartels, I would consider it to be an act of war against America here with the fentanyl they brought in, the amount of Americans that have died as a result of that. What is your take here on the U.S. possibly using military forces to go in and wipe out these cartels?
Our job is to protect American citizens and whatever it takes. So I absolutely agree with it.
Yeah, and how about now for the parents right now? I just had a few guys on too, former military guys. What's your take on parents right now that have kids that are, in the senior year of high school now, thinking Trump is in there, Pete Hegseth's in there. I'm thinking about a military career. What's your advice to parents out there that have kids right now that are seriously considering joining the military?
The new military under President Trump will provide your kids with great start in life. Basically, there is a supervised transition from childhood to adult life where you still have responsibilities and still have people, the senior military personnel looking out after you. And once the perversion is thrown out of the military, I think we are on the great path, and I think our recruitment right now is growing, skyrocketing now.
It is. You got a new edition of the book here, the Pledge to America here. What's included in a new edition here of the book?
Mostly those are images that are not included in the regular book. The books that you can purchase on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or Books A Million, they do not have that. This is special edition and only available on my website or here, like to sign one for you.
I'm going to put the link to your website so my listeners can go over there and check it out. Drago Dezarian, you're a first-class father and you're a hero all the way. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time in the Alec Lace Show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Gordon Chang. Gordon, what's your message to the people here at CPAC?
Well, the most important thing is that America is back. And we're talking about freedom being back. Well, freedom is back because America is back. America is back because Trump is back. This is going to be a much better world going forward.
Well, talking about Trump just, changing the country, but also changing the world. So what's the latest? You're the expert here when it comes to China. I know you're speaking here at several different events here, but what has been your word here on what's going on with the Chinese Communist Party? And what are they up to now that Trump is in office?
Right now, the Communist Party is apprehensive because they don't know what Trump's going to do. They know that he'll be willing to wield American power. Biden, in his 4 years wasn't willing to do that. And so it's a very different America. I'm talking about this on Saturday morning with Eric Prince, and the title of our segment is It's Trump's World Now.
Yeah, and everybody has to kind of now live in it, right? We see this, what's going on with the Ukraine-Russia war. Trump is changing the tactics here. We're no longer going to be just punting a bunch of money over to Zelensky. He's got to come to the table and say, hey, let's stop this endless war. Do you think Trump gets this thing done?
Maybe initially. I think the problem is Putin you just can't deal with because Putin doesn't honor his promises. When you look at the Russian Federation, all the arms deals we had with them, they just violated them. So, maybe he can come to an initial deal, but long term, I don't think it'll stick.
All right, last thing is I promised I'd get you out of here. I know you have a short time. What do you think of Trump's picks for these different ambassadors that he's put in place? UN ambassadors all around the country. A lot different look than what Biden had in his administration.
A lot different look, and also his cabinet, a lot different look. And really, we are seeing, I think, an American government that is reinvigorated, a government that is willing to use its power to enforce norms and also to protect American interests and rights. And we haven't had that for 4 years. So things are going to be very different. And it is Trump's world, and it's going to be a better world. And not just better for us, but I think better for the rest of the world as well. Because we're going to have more peace, more stability, more prosperity for everybody with Trump in the White House.
Very well said. You're the best in the business. Gordon Chang, thanks for giving me a few minutes of time here on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Elena Barbera. What's your message to the people here at CPAC?
My message here is that we've got to get the word to the president that there's pornographic books in schools, in American public schools, in all 50 states. And I'm not talking about one or two books. I'm talking about hundreds of books. And I'm not talking about things that'll make you blush. I'm talking about things that'll make your grandmother roll over in her grave if she knew you knew.
Yeah, and I think every time we say that, they call us like book burners and they say that we're trying to get books kicked out of school. It's just these books that we're trying to get removed, the ones that are pornographic and stuff like that. And we see some of the times parents go to these school board meetings and start reading what's in the book, and they tell them, hey, you can't say that stuff here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You couldn't, if you said it in a board meeting, you'd be fired for sexual harassment. If you read it to a kid in a coffee shop or the mall, you could be arrested. But in most states, there are laws that let you read this stuff to kids in libraries and schools because it has educational value, so you'll be exempted from criminal prosecution.
What a sin. And so what do we do now? What is the first of all, before I get into that, along with the books, it's the social media, the internet, it's become so easy for these kids to access pornographic material. There's almost nothing in place to stop kids from just Googling naked woman, and then all of a sudden they get thousands of images. So it's like, I mean, as parents, there's only so much we can do. You know, I have 3 teenage boys. Believe me, it's not very easy to police all of that stuff. So how do we fight back against it? How do you fight back against this porn industry that's $1 billion industry?
All right. Well, for starters, we got to get this stuff out of the schools, because even if kids can see alcohol, drugs, domestic violence at home, should we bring all that into the school too? You know, like, give me a break. At least for 8 hours a day, let kids be kids and learn and do some actual learning, especially considering we're failing them academically, right? Then add to it, as far as the internet goes, the music, parents have to take control. I'm sorry. Like, we have to, as parents, say, oh, I don't care that you like the internet. Give me the smartphone. Here's a flip phone. I'm going to let you be a normal kid. We have enough evidence these days to know how damaging and addictive social media is and how it's designed to be addictive. You know, we wouldn't feed our kids heroin. Why are we giving them mental drugs?
Well, and I think the issue with that is most of the parents are hooked on the internet as well. They're hooked on the cell phones too. It's almost like every time you drive in a car, all you see is people looking at the phone. It's not just young kids. It's my generation too. We are totally hooked on the phones.
Yes, I'm hooked. And if it weren't for the fact that I'm in this business now of being on social media and telling people about this stuff, I would throw my phone into the river too. You know, and I try to, you know, when I walk the dog, I leave the phone home. I do everything I can to detach from it, because I know what it was like. I'm old enough to know what life was like before we had this, and my mind was better. It worked better.
I cooked mine a little bit, but that's another story. Now, here's the thing. Right now, we know as parents, we are getting bombarded. Our kids are getting bombarded with the indoctrination that's going on in the public school system. President Trump is coming here. Linda McMahon, the goal is, let's get rid of the Department of Education and throw it back to the states, where it should be and where it belongs, and that should create something better. Do you think by doing that, we have a better chance to get these pornographic books out of the schools, or is it going to make it more difficult?
No, that has nothing to do with the pornographic books. So all the DEI, the CRT, the gender identity things that they're putting financial pressure on the schools, they may get rid of some of that. But not all of these pornographic books. In fact, most of these pornographic books don't have anything to do with any of that. And the Island Trees School District versus Pico case from the 80s determines that school districts themselves need to, one by one, which there are 13,000 school districts in America, one by one, have their school board remove these books so the president can shine a light on it. So my goal here is to get to the president, you know, talk to enough people that he sees these books, because if he saw this stuff, I promise you his head would explode and every kitchen table in America would be talking about it, which is what I want. And then the parents could go hold the school board's feet to the fire or run them out of office, whatever it takes, and clean up the shelves. And that's still not going to change the fact that the kids can't read. I mean, that's a whole other ball of wax.
That's a major epidemic. All right, so you're working on a documentary. You have a documentary out now. Where do we tell the people to go and find you, find out more about what you're working on?
So the documentary is out. It's called American Groomer, and you can see it for free at AmericanGroomerFilm.com. I'm a Brooklyn girl. I talk fast. It's quick. It's only 36 minutes. Could have been years long for all the information I found. But on social media, I also talk about politics, culture, all the stuff everybody loves. And I'm known as the Based Mother, and that's on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Rumble. I have a podcast on Rumble also.
Well, the parents have been the underdog in this country for a long time, and they're the ones that showed up big on November 5th, and they made their voices loud, especially dads. Dads overwhelmingly voted for President Donald Trump, and I think a lot of it has to do is we're tired of seeing this sickness involved in our kids, and we want to say, you know what, enough's enough.
You know, I'm glad you brought up dads, though. Obviously, that's your thing. Over the past several decades, I have watched feminists attack men. First, hate on men. First, we didn't need men. Then hate on men. Now, actively try to destroy men. And men, some men, not you, back down and just allowed themselves to be emasculated and allowed themselves to be, you know, barked down by the feminists. And in this fight that I'm seeing, it's mostly women. We need the men to come and fight at the school boards. I've seen some, but not nearly enough. We need the men in here protecting this society again. Because right now, you know, we can't do it alone. And I don't care what the feminists say. We can't do it alone. We need you guys.
No doubt about it. I think there will be an uprising of dads. We've seen them get to the polls. Now we need to see them get to the school boards, and I think it will make a difference. Elena Barbera, I'll put the link to your documentary in the description of this show so my listeners can go check it out. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time on the Alec Lace Show.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
All right, Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keepers. What brings you to CPAC today?
Oh, the grace of God. President Trump won the election by the grace of God, survived the assassination attempt by the grace of God, and then he kept his promises and pardoned and commuted us. 18 years sentence. He was commuted and let free on January 20th.
Yeah, part of the January 6th.
Yes. Yeah, I was wrongly accused and run through a show trial in Washington, D.C. I was the leader of Oath Keepers. Like Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, they tagged us as the lieutenants of President Trump in a fake conspiracy with him tagged as the kingpin. Complete nonsense, all political lawfare to try to keep him out of being able to run for office again.
And it's amazing to see how many people on the left really feel like people that were at January 6th or had something to do with it should be locked away and put away forever. Right. Yet you now have, we just seen the other day, they had a rally and a protest where they're dragging around a dummy of Donald Trump saying that they're hanging him and they're calling for, they're calling for his assassination. And there's no problem with those people doing it.
Well, actually, in 2020, May 29th or June 1st of 2020, they attacked the White House so severely that the Secret Service evacuated President Trump and the first family down into the bunker under the White House. I think it's the first time it's been done since like the Cold War. Maybe like during the missile crisis in the Cold War, the president was down in the bunker. So that was an actual attack on the White House. Multiple Secret Service agents and Park Police injured. None of them were prosecuted. So I'm standing outside the Capitol. I didn't even go inside, didn't touch anybody, and yet I got seditious conspiracy charged with a crime tantamount to treason.
What was it like for you when once Donald Trump got elected? Did you know right then, hey, my whole thing is going to be commuted here? Or did you say, oh, hopefully he comes true?
I had absolute faith that he would keep his promise, and I also had faith that he was going to win. And so, really, the day he was shot in Butler and stood up like a man and reacted like a warrior is when he won that election. All the guys in my unit, black, Hispanic, and white, all cheered, all loved President Trump. And that day they were like, he's an OG, which is like original gangster. Best compliment you get in prison. Another inmate was like, no question. They love him. They think he's fantastic. So everything they throw at him, God can use for good and does use for good what man means for evil. Just as Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, turned for the good. Same thing here. All they threw at President Trump, all they threw at us, only made us stronger. That's how I feel about it.
And what's your take now? We have Kash Patel just got confirmed today as the FBI director. So do we have faith now that some of these bad activists are going to they're going to be the ones that are going to be, I don't want to say targeted, but they're the ones that are going to have to be held accountable?
Amen. They should be investigated for what they did, which was blatant subornation of perjury and conspiracy to commit perjury. We caught 2 police officers in my case lying on the stand. Actually, Steve Baker, the journalist, found video of one of them. He's under the basement. He's in the tunnels under the Senate. Could not have been where he said he was. They said they were both together. They both lied on the stand. Start there. They should be prosecuted for perjury. They'll roll over, I'm sure, on the prosecutors who suborned their perjury and work their way up the ladder. And those prosecutors are afraid to go to prison. They're a bunch of weenies. They'll roll over too, all the way up to the Attorney General most likely.
Now, just because you caught up in it and it's such a personal effect on your life, do you hope now that we'll get a chance to look into this January 6th committee and some of these people which we all pretty much feel like is this whole thing was a setup? Absolutely. There were people inside. Do you hope to see some kind of, do you think it's going to be more like, well, now we got the January 6ers out, that's the end of it? Do you want to see more?
It should not be the end of it, because this could happen to any American. This is what I saw when I was in prison. I saw multiple guys that were in there for ghost guns or ghost drugs. In other words, no actual guns or drugs were found, just some snitch, just some coerced confessor himself being coerced into testifying, bearing false witness, and on that testimony alone, they're put in prison. So it's being done all across the country. It needs to stop. So I want to see this would be the beginning of cleaning up the DOJ and BOP and FBI. I'd love to work with Doge or work with Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard. Just dig into the corruption and the manipulation and misuse of classified material. That's how they hide all this stuff. It's classified. Even got in our cases, they'll say, "Oh, that's classified." So throw it all out there. That's what I advocated in open letters to President Trump in 2020, is that he should use his power of declassification, absolute power, to classify anything, to expose all the dirty secrets that conceal the deep state. It controls them and protects them, and it's all illegitimate.
Well said. Hit the listeners. Where can they find you? Your tags. What do you got coming
I
up?
work for Condemned USA now. I'm the national spokesman for Condemned USA. We still have J6 political prisoners. Jeremy Brown, Special Forces veteran from Florida, who's still being held. They're denying his case is J6 related. It's absolutely J6 related. There's 5 or 6 men like that. We need to be focused on them. So that's what Condemned USA is doing. Is focusing on political prisoners who are still in. And at the state level, like Tina Peters in Colorado, the election official there. Unfortunately, this lawfare continues. Anywhere you have a blue-dominated area, Democrat-dominated area, they continue to wage lawfare on the political right. So that's why I'm working with them. It's a good outfit. So they can go to Oath Keepers. They can go to condemnedusa.com and look us up there.
Very cool. All right, Stuart Rose, thank you for your time here on the Alec Lace Show.
God bless you, man. All right, appreciate you.
All right, Alec Lace live here
By
on
the way,
CPAC with Eduardo
thank you.
Bolsonaro.
That's so
Great to
big.
see you again.
God
What's your
bless
message to the
you.
people that you're
We
giving here
love
at
the
CPAC?
Commonwealth.
Here in
That's
CPAC,
right.
first we are saying that the Trump selection, congratulations if you vote for Trump, because it's bringing a lot
We're
of
even
hope
going to forgive the
to Brazil. Because as Trump was elected in 2016, here in U.S., Bolsonaro, my father, he got elected in 2018. And in the following elections, both they didn't win in a very suspicious elections that we had in both countries. And now Trump is back. So I think this is a lot of hope that I'm going back home. I'm bringing back home from here. And the message that we want to spread here, despite more than about the censorship, is also to ask the Americans to do not recognize elections while they do not have a way to audit. In Brazil, our system is fully electronic, and it's really hard because you have to trust in the bureaucrats who count the votes, just like in Venezuela. And then in the end of the day, they get out from a room saying who won the election. So this is not, you don't have transparency. It doesn't look, and this is not what a democracy looks like. So this is one of our main messages here too as well.
Yeah, and I think it's happened here, but we're seeing it all over the world. It's this like kind of communist dictatorship takeover. Now they accuse Donald Trump of being a dictator. Meanwhile, he's the guy that's bringing freedom and hope to not just us, but people around the world.
Yes, yes. It's the same playbook. This is a thing that the left, they are very well connected worldwide. And we have to learn with them. So that's why it's very important to be here in the CPAC United States. Not only to spread our message, but to change the experience and prevent other countries to not go deep in communist governments. And also to say that Trump is not the nephew. I know him by myself. He's a really polite and humble man. Very, very nice man. A lot of things in common with my father, even the attempt against their lives. Trump, as everybody knows, received a shot on the ear. My father was stabbed by a radical left militant in the elections of 2018. So this is the way that they try. They try to kill their reputation first. When they realize that they do not have a success with that, then they try really to take your life. And then they accuse you to be the dictator. This is a madness.
What Trump has is what your father has, is the people on his side. The people of Brazil overwhelmingly support your dad. The people of the United States overwhelmingly support President Donald Trump. But the media tries to play it out as if they're the people that we don't want. Oh, nobody wants those guys in there. When really,
the deplorables, huh?
Right. It's really what the people want, because he represents us. That's why this whole movement has changed, and that's why this country now has hope again.
Yes, yeah. That's okay, like you say that, oh, I have kids. I don't want to bring my boy to the school and then he get back again in the school, someone teaching him that he can be a lady. Come on.
Yeah.
What is that? This is the new normal? Come on, not with my family.
Yes. I don't know how we got to the point in the world where we start actually having, what is that like in Brazil? Do they have this kind of issue with that, with boys playing in the women's sports and stuff?
You have some. Usually the idea is that born here, that go quickly, or sometimes even they use Latin America as a lab. So everything that we have here in the college campus, like biological men competing against women, all of this madness you have in Brazil, we fight against the gender ideology, and we want to keep safe the family. And you do whatever you want for your life, but don't tell me how I have to raise my kids. This is up to me and my family. My kids they are belonging to me, not to the administration or even the state government.
Yeah, they don't belong to the state; they belong to us through God our Father. So,
Sure.
The last thing I want to hit you, because I don't want to keep you too long here, too. in the United States, we're going to get rid of this Department of Education. The education system has sucked in this country. We've thrown billions of dollars at it, and the kids aren't getting any smarter. Do you have a similar issue with this in Brazil? What is the education system like? Is it slanted towards indoctrinating the kids like it is here in America?
100%. And I was following some of the ranks of the OCDE. Yeah, you have the, I don't know if the same name in English, the PISA test, which is the test of the OCDE. And United States is going worse and worse year after year. In Brazil, we are always one of the last countries in the PISA test, because basically they do not teach math anymore. They use the school as a place for indoctrination. They do not care about the lessons, about bringing knowledge to the kids. And sometimes we compare even with China. You go to China or some other countries that are doing really good in education. The kids learn how to do the basic mathematics, some incredible things, even in arts. If you see the difference between the TikTok in China and the TikTok in US, you are clearly going to see what I'm talking about. And this is a way to get the population dumber and dumber. And for sure, we have to change that. I think in education, you also have here a big challenge, big homework to do.
Yeah, a lot to do. Last thing, one word. Elon Musk went viral yesterday. Javier Milei came out with a chainsaw. What was your reaction to that?
It is great. I would like to have a DOG or a president like Elon and like Milei to do the same in Brazil. In Brazil, we have a socialist administration. The taxes are raising like crazy, but they spend so much money that even these high taxes are not covering the deficit, the default of the government. So we are in a very bad fiscal situation, which for sure it reflects in the increasing of the inflation. And this economic crisis, I think, will be very painful for the Brazilians. But at least it will open the eyes of a lot of people to change this regime in 2026, because sooner or later, socialist administration, they always go down. It's just a matter of time. It's like Margaret Thatcher says, man, there is nothing free, because the administration bureaucrats, they use your money to pay. So when someone from the government say it's free, trust me, you are paying for that.
Yeah. Always. And now at least maybe we get some money of that back. Now we start cutting all this stuff out. We get a few bucks in the pocket. And Ronald Bolsonaro, I know you're a busy man. Always an honor to get a chance to speak to you. Thanks for your time on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Alec Lace live here at CPAC with Congressman John McGuire. What's your message to the people here at CPAC?
Well, I'm telling you what, it's morning in America. President Trump is bringing trust back to government. He's bringing fairness, and he's bringing common sense. And as a Navy SEAL, as a veteran, it's an honor to be part of it.
Well said. This is your freshman year here, right? Your rookie year in the Congress. So what's your take so far, being from the outside now coming in? How does it seem to you? What's your take on it?
Well, I got to tell you, it's pretty bad. I mean, you've seen what Elon Musk and Doge has uncovered. They've been robbing the American taxpayer blind. And thank God, by the grace of God, we got President Trump in the White House. We got a majority in the representatives and the U.S. Senate. But it's an honor. I think this is the most impactful administration in the last 100 years. And my nickname is Pitbull. I got my foot on the gas. We're going to help make America great again.
Well, I'll tell you, what a great time to be a rookie congressman here. I mean, you come in at a great time. President Donald Trump just starting his second term, so the momentum is high out here from us. And we're in a position here where we may never get another chance again, where we have the House, the Senate, and Trump in there. So we got to get something done now, or this opportunity is going to pass us by.
We do, and that's why Trump is going so fast. The one thing in business, if you want to be successful in business, you have to be decisive. President Trump is an executive. He's a business. He's a CEO. He's very decisive. I was at Mar-a-Lago when he made that decision to send that message to Colombia, 25% tariff, and if you don't listen to us in a week, it'll be 50%. He's very decisive. He knows what he wants, and he wants American first. He's thinking about the forgotten man and woman, and that's why he won.
Well said. I know as a former Navy SEAL, it's a big deal. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. I was there. I was with you guys. You guys marched on Washington for Pete. Everybody seems to be. You've never seen a reaction like this to a Secretary of Defense pick. That's the first time, to my knowledge, that you had veterans come out and march for Secretary of Defense. So early on, he's brand new in there. What's your take on what Pete Hegseth, as Secretary of Defense, is doing to our military?
Well, he's doing a great job, and you're right. I marched with a bunch of my Navy SEAL brothers, Rangers, Green Berets, and others. We marched from the Vietnam War Memorial all the way to the Capitol to make sure that he got confirmed. But you saw where he worked out with the troops. You know what that tells me is that he cares about the troops. And, people don't care what you think until they know you care about them. But by being on the ground, doing push-ups with them, listening to them, he can help make our military more lethal. These social experiments they've been doing have been making us weak. I'm a limited government guy, but if we do anything, we should keep the country, the American people, safe at home abroad. So President Trump believes in peace through strength, just like Ronald Reagan, and so does Pete Hegseth. We're going to do everything we can to help him make our military lethal again.
What is your take on that? Like, if you, as an active duty SEAL, when you were serving, to see the Secretary of Defense, somebody from the Department of Justice, Department of Defense, come in and actually get down with the troops and do push-ups and do the runs, does that boost morale? Or you guys kind of like, look at this guy trying to chum up? How do the soldiers, the sailors, how do they respond to that?
It actually does boost morale, but remember, respect isn't given; it's earned. And when you're down there with the troops, listening to them, when you're doing push-ups with them and everything else, you're earning respect. Respect is earned, not given, and we need leaders that we respect.
All right, last take here. I know I got to get you out of here. Kash Patel, hopefully we get his confirmation today. He's the one we've all been waiting for. I mean, he's the pick, since this started. He's the one. But it seems like he's the one that deep state fears the most. Why do you think that is?
Well, they should, because we've had a two-tier justice system. Rules for thee, not for me. And he's going to hold them accountable, and they're afraid. And so I would say be afraid, get ready. I can't wait.
Yeah, Kash is coming. Congressman John McGuire, appreciate your time here on the Alec Lay Show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go. Another CPAC in the books, CPAC 2025. Grateful to all the guests who took the time to sit down with me. Did make some great connections, networked with a lot of people, so hopefully I'll be bringing some more interviews to the Alec Lay Show again soon. And again, it's been a good experience. It's a different vibe. It's a celebratory mode. Yes, we did it, but we cannot celebrate for too long. We've got to keep the pedal to the metal, and I think that Trump knows that better than everybody. We're only a month into this thing, and the sky is the limit, and hopefully we go at 100 miles an hour. That's the way the people want to see it go, myself included. So I'm going to be back here with you guys Tuesday. I don't know who I'm going to have, so make sure you follow me on X at Alec_Lace to see who I can grab on the show. I appreciate you guys checking it out. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like, and I will see you guys on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right back on Rumble. Have a great weekend.
You're listening to the Alec Lay Show. The future is family.